Good morning, everyone. Uh, Shri R.V. Shai, sir, President, India Energy Forum, and former Secretary Power, distinguished panelists, Mr. Gaurav Kedia, Chairman, Indian Biogas Association, Mr. Guruvinder Mohan Singh, MD, Carbon Circle. We have yet to see Dr. M.P. Singh had mentioned that he will be able to join little late by 12:30. And I think Colonel Ahuja has to join. His phone was coming engaged. He might be busy somewhere, but he will join. So, and distinguished members of India Energy Forum, distinguished delegates who have joined this, I welcome you all this morning to this webinar on biogas. We all understand that we require all type of resource, all non-fossil fuel resources to reach net zero. And what we find is that biogas provides a very, very important resource for moving towards that direction. I still remember when solar mission was launched in MNRE, there was a talk of launching bioenergy mission. Somehow in 2010, 12, 14, we had been talking, but the bioenergy mission was not launched. But what we find, sir, in last 7-8 years, a number of ministries have pushed it and they have pushed the programs, but somehow we have not seen the success that we should have seen because of certain issues that we would also be discussing in this webinar. I would like to highlight the major schemes that were launched. One was Satat scheme, everybody knows that sustainable alternative towards affordable transport to build 5,000 large biogas plants. Now, against that, this was launched in October 2018. Against that, only 68 plants are commissioned today. And last year, 22,000 tons of CBG was sold uh, by these plants. Now, to facilitate further, uh, this year, last year, again, the government of India had budgeted almost 1,000 crore to connect these plants to the grid. And they had planned that 100 biogas plants will be connected to the grid so that transportation of biogas becomes cheaper. Then there was a Govardhan scheme launched by Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation, and that was to address liquid and solid waste in rural areas. And they had earmarked some 50 lakh rupees per plant to be installed. At least they had planned that at least one plant will be installed in each district or block level. Again, they had in 23-24 they had budgeted again for 500 waste to wealth plants under Govardhan scheme, out of which 200 compressed biogas plants will be there and 300 community based plants will be there. Then Swachh Bharat mission, they provide additional central assistance to state and union territories for solid waste management. Then again, we had Ministry of MNRE launching National Bioenergy Program. We had seen some 63 biogas plants commissioned under that scheme, generating 590 megawatt. So this is in brief, and all these schemes have financial assistance attached to it. What we have seen is this has not taken off because of certain reasons. One reason that everybody told was that financing is not easy for biogas plants. And the reason behind that is that although the feedstock availability is a challenge, lenders probably don't understand because there are no long contracts for feedstock. And there are no long-term contracts for feedstock anywhere globally also. Nobody will sign for feedstock. I don't see any long-term contracts being signed. Some MOUs are signed. So lenders sometimes are not comfortable. And initially the offtake agreement that were signed were on best effort basis. Now that also doesn't give comfort to the lenders, because if you are entering into a long-term contract, and probably rightly so for oil marketing companies, because they were not used to long-term contracts because their prices for oil keep varying. The next best thing that has happened is now CBG prices are linked to CNG prices. So that is giving some comfort. The other reason was that we were not also able to monetize the bioorganic fertilizers. That is an important byproduct because there were no confirmed offtake arrangements. And so there also the price, and that makes the biogas plant very remunerative. But these challenges need to be addressed. Then there are very few logistic firms who provide feedstock. I mean, we have invited Colonel Ahuja for this. He will talk about it, what the challenges he has faced, and what challenges he faces is that he doesn't get working capital for bio waste collection and storage of it, because the bankers don't see any value in it. So that is another challenge that he has been facing. Though government has given some subsidies, some grants for purchase of equipment and baling equipment and all those, but this is work in progress. Then we had these are some of the challenges. Uh, uh, we do get 60, see, we generate almost 62 million tons of municipal solid waste, out of which probably 50% is organic, and that too 50% is collected. So the which can be utilized for biogas production. Now the solid waste that goes to the landfills generates methane, which is almost, I don't know whether it is 25 times or 83 times, somewhere, some places I've read this, and this is more potent than CO2. So the advantage that biogas plants give us is that it protects us from methane release in the atmosphere. The other problem with biogas plants is you don't get too many skilled manpower. The certification is still weak. There could be a badly built biogas plant could create more harm, because if there is a leakage from the digester, methane leakage, then it is more harmful uh, for the atmosphere. So these are some of the challenges that are there, and these needs to be addressed. We have, sir, today with us chairman of Indian Biogas Association, who this association is doing a great job. They are hand holding the developers. They are also preparing project reports for them, doing certification for them. We have with us, sir, Mr. Gurinder Mohan Singh, who is a serial entrepreneur. He has been very successful in rooftop solar, which was a very difficult sector. And after monetizing that business, he has come to biogas. So we are seeing good people coming to this sector. We have Colonel Ahuja, sir, who is a legend in his logistics and production of biomaterial. And then we have also invited Director PEDA, Dr. MP Singh, who is somehow called in the ministry. So he said he will be joining by 12:30. Otherwise, his team will give a presentation. So we have these four, sir, who will give a very, I think, after end of these once they speak, we will have a very good idea on what ails this industry. Before I request our president, Shri R.V. Shai sir, for his presidential address. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Popley. You have given a good background, and let me again, on behalf of the India Energy Forum, welcome all the participants, particularly the speakers and panelists who agreed to participate in this event. As a matter of fact, we have a renewable vertical in the India Energy Forum, which is headed by Mr. Popley. But in renewable, I'm finding that each piece of renewable, each aspect of renewable, unless that is seen in totality, because each case may have a different type of challenge, and each case has a contribution to make. And within each case, again, there could be subcategories. For example, in solar, If you want to do floating solar, if you want to do offshore solar, if you want to do, and we are doing rooftop solar. And in each case, there are issues which are of different nature. There are challenges which are of different nature. And therefore, unless each of these is discussed in entirety, any integrated program tends to focus on the larger proportion. And that is what seems to have happened even in case of biogas, and I will come to that a little later. It is good that all over the world, renewables have received the right type of thrust in the context of climate change and the difficulties that are associated and challenges that are associated with them. And India has taken a very massive task of net zero by 2070, as the Honorable Prime Minister mentioned. Therefore, we have to see how best, and we are doing it very fast. In the last 10 years, we have covered considerable ground. But in our case, the issue also is to provide more energy. We are at some level in relation to many other countries, and therefore we have the dual task of providing more energy and at the same time trying to balance that it should be fossil and non-fossil mix should not get too much on the fossil side, and slowly we are trying to solve that problem. In the overall energy mix of the country, we are still dependent to the extent of almost 30% on petroleum and natural gas. And it is there again, the subject that we are talking today, biogas, does have a solution for electricity, and it also has a solution for uh, something that is being fulfilled or met by the petroleum and natural gas category. So can this contribute to some degree of mitigating the challenge of over dependence on import? Because our dependence on import in case of petroleum fuel, including gas, is huge. In case of gas, it is about 50%. In case of petroleum, more than 85, 86%. So that is an excessive dependence. And on the top of it, in the new last few years, a very difficult or very challenging scenario has emerged because of changing geopolitical situation, that we need also to have energy security. That means dependence on import per se is not bad, but energy security challenge becomes an extra added dimension. So the India has so many tasks to sort of balance and see that overall objective of providing energy is met. In the family of renewable itself, the contribution of biogas as of today, and maybe even the potential that has been assessed may not have been assessed comprehensively. So they need to have a focus on, in the overall basket of energy, what could be the potential. Like when we did focus on wind and we did focus on solar, you have seen the potentials have increased. In case of wind, potential has increased to more than 700,000 megawatt. It can be more. In case of solar, again, it has increased to more than 700, 800 gigawatt, and it is increasing depending on at what level you are trying to focus on. So therefore, the potential of biogas in the country, as assessed or as achieved, both of them are very much in the margin. This is an important option because when we have embarked upon large scale solar, we are trying to find not only the challenge and trying to mitigate the challenge of providing more energy, we are also trying to meet the challenge of what extra challenges get created because of solar during daytime and what sort of backup that we should. So we have to see the biogas in terms of an overall energy mix in the context of energy security and the geopolitical situation, and in the context of dependence on import, and also in the context of to what extent this energy can also provide a reasonable backup for the massive expansion of solar that is taking place. As of today, industry scale and family and community, if we see, and some study done a few years back. That study may be needing updating, and that study indicated that industry proportion of biogas is hardly less than 20%, and family and community proportion decentralized is within the small proportion in the overall energy context. I am saying within that, more than 80% is family and community, that at family level something is being done, village level something is being done, community level something is being done, and then industry. So that means industry has not been very enthusiastic. We need to see why. What are the issues? Why industry should not embrace this good source of where potential exists? The availability of fuel is there, and availability of fuel can be sort of improved. So therefore, unless industry embraces it in a big way, and then it doesn't happen. And therefore, the policy direction and all that, as I have often said, that each case of renewable has been under discussion from early 80s, each case, but it has received right attention, and wherever it has received right attention and it has been scaled up, the option itself has justified itself. If it is not scaled up, the option doesn't get justified. People feel that so long as this is small, the proportion and the cost will be less, and various other issues will continue to be there. So it has to be scaled up. So need to scaling up is more important, very important. I think there have been schemes. There are good schemes in the government system. MNRE has a scheme which is called Waste to Energy. That scheme is there in energy. It has another scheme, biogas scheme itself, National Biogas Scheme. Then we have Petroleum Ministry has biofuel policy, and it has a SATAT initiative for compressed biogas, CBG. So these policies are there, but as a thorough investigation and a very honest and comprehensive studies on why these policies being in existence for decades together, this continues to be very much in the margin, and therefore that is important. We need to scale up. See, if you take 7-8 years back, solar was in the same situation. It was very much on the margin, only street lights and then some far off places which cannot be connected with grid. In power ministry, we kept thinking this cannot be connected, is uneconomical, it is a far flung area, the hilly area, so give them solar, and etc. etc. And just in last 10 years, the situation has changed, completely changed. So therefore, can there be a situational change? Can there be a situational change? May not be at par with what what the world has been able to achieve in respect of solar, but can, for about 1% or less than 1% of energy basket, can this important source of energy scale up? As if there is no one solution to energy problem. There is no one solution to renewable trying to counter or trying to balance the fossil fuel mix of the country. And in that context, this holds potential. So all that is required is we should again look, can we further intensify the family and community level applications? Can the technology, another thing is that can the technology also be looked upon somewhat differently for the small scale, very small scale, at family level, community, village level, or town level, at industry level? Why industry is shy in incorporating this? Why it's synergy? It's not only, it is not the substitute of power. It is a substitute, it can be substitute of energy itself. It is one that have power and then use it as energy. You use it as energy. So both the things will have to be like cogeneration, etc. So both the things will have to be seen. So we have to look at the constraints, we have to look at the difficulties, we have to look at the challenges at the level of, if we want to look at the group level, the village level, like take for example now rooftop solar, latest scheme of rooftop solar to make it popular in villages. I mean, one after another, we have been, I think, a similar dispensation. And coupled with that, our technology friends, technology development friends need to also see how the industry embraces it with a large scale, applications. And in that application, will technology play a role? In the small scale application, again, will the technology play a role? and technology, and then also comes the question of regulatory. The regulatory issues, I do see, can a biogas market be created? Can biogas generators, creators sell it in the market? It's one application is in industry. Another is, can biogas be sold? So market structure for the industry for the biogas on a long-term basis, providing the access to the pipelines. If I create biogas, I don't mean to say that you should create also your own pipeline. So access to the pipeline, access to the highway pipeline, and access also to the routine pipeline going from one place to another. So I think these are the overall issues at the technology level, at regulatory level, at infrastructure, logistic level, will need to be seen and supported. Wherever support is required, it needs to be supported. Maybe for the industry, it might be made obligatory. Many industries might be made obligatory that certain part of their energy mix, they need to do this. So this whole range of issues need to be brought into front, and we have to see how this less than 1% can improve. Much less than 1% can improve over a period of time. I think these are some of the brief comments to start with, to focus on various issues. I think we have panelists, very eminent panelists, and let us say that we should get some recommendations and conclusions which they can be forwarded both to Petroleum Ministry, because here Petroleum Ministry also plays a role, needs to play a role. Why our large petroleum companies making tons of money cannot spend a little more on research and development, so that instead of importing 50% gas and LNG, we also have some domestic production. So therefore, this gas is sort of fed into the grid, into the pipeline grid. So I think both these things will need to be done. So with that, I stop, and I do feel that the discussion will be very meaningful. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for your address. You had very rightly said scaling up is very, very important to make it a significant player in the whole system, and also that will give economy of scales. And we need to also develop the ecosystem for making it viable. And of course, the regulatory mechanism has to be further strengthened so that the market, we get a viable market for biogas in coming years. We have I would like to invite Colonel Ahuja, who will about one big challenge that in the feedstock. So he will be talking about what challenges he has faced and how he has come over it, and how he is supporting the industry in collection and supply of feedstock for the biogas plants. Over to Colonel Ahuja, please.
Thank you, Kuljit Pokliji, for inviting me. Dr. Arbishai sir, good morning to you and all the co-panelists and all the attendees. I have a limited time span and try and cover what is set out as the agenda. But picking up threads from the first two speakers, we yet do not have in the country a biomass bioenergy mission. And thus, the feedstock that we have as an organic fraction, be it from MSW or be it from the farm agri residue, directionally, we do not have a mandate in the country as to where these feedstocks would get utilized. And I'm talking from an upstream segment. We have the resource mapping, and it's debatable in terms of how the resource mapping has been done and what is that data of resource mapping. And when I say what is that data, is that data bankable? And from the testing of the banks of that data, the answer is no, it's not bankable. So where are we with one, the potential of the resource? And why I question this is because different ministries, different bodies of government talk about different numbers of this potential of resource. So, slightly laughable, 5 ministries talking about the same resource with 5 different potential numbers. So as a country, don't we know what is our potential number, or don't we put out one consistent common potential number. Assuming that is known, then where do we want to use that resource? MNRE says use it for combined heat and power, use it for electricity, and use it for some small scale biogas plants, which MNRE supports. Ministry of Petroleum says use it for ethanol, use it for sustainable aviation fuel, use it for CBG for Satat. The Ministry of Agriculture and Farm Welfare and Animal Husbandry says use it for fodder. The Ministry of Civil Aviation now says use it for sustainable aviation fuel. So, and you know what I'm alluding it is use it for everything, but earmark it as to what is to be used. Set targets for each of these ministries that out of, and assuming a potential number of 1,000 million metric tons per annum, which ministry in a mission mode is to use how much, and audit that and check that, and you know have processes of accountability around that. There is no accountability on any ministry of what is it they are going to use as a resource, and hence the midstream and downstream markets are not getting developed. Popli sir spoke about Satat scheme and he said 68 operational projects. My number of 31st March is 48 operational projects. And out of the 48 operational projects, and I could be corrected here by the panelists or somebody, only 2 or 3 are running to optimal capacity. None of the projects are running to optimal capacity of CBG production, of sales of fermented organic manure and liquid organic manure, and thus 91st day each of this would be a NPA. And all these projects today are significantly balance sheet funded and supported, not the banking sector. Very few are banking sector. So something is wrong somewhere which we need to set right. And that's a problem statement. So the first part of the segment is understand the problem statement correctly and then start, mitigating it to put this segment forward. So, again, I'm giving a connotation of where we are because we want to set it right and being optimistic for this sector. I'm an eternal optimistic for this sector because I work in the biomass bioenergy sector. So let's understand that. Let's take the analogy with the mature fossil fuel sector. So let's take crude as an analogy and place biomass or bioenergy in the same bucket. It has had investments in 4 segments. Upstream, somebody in Government of India, let's take a ONGC, let's take a oil, XYZ, or globally, invests billions of dollars in the upstream segment to bring the crude oil out, to bring the gas out, then transport continents this crude oil or the gas, and to transport the gas, first liquefy it, bring it to, let's say, India on the shore, then make it gas form again to put it in the gas grid. So billions of dollars are invested upfront in the upstream sector. Now look at the analogy to utilize biomass resources. Where is the investment in India in the upstream sector for biomass and biomass supply chain management? Or where is the policy or regulatory framework to facilitate such investment? And recognition of this feedstock supply chain management, of farm agri residue, of municipal solid waste, of biodegradable fractions, to be a space of independent business activity. Popli sir, if you're saying something, I think you're on mute. Popli sir, I'm not too sure if you're saying something. Can I continue? Okay. Now looking at, this to be vibrant and this upstream segment of business to be acknowledged, it will yield to a number of a price for the feedstock. Because you will have, various layers of Excel sheet build up of what is going to take what is the capex, what is the opex, what is the storage, what is the warehousing, what is the insurance, what is the transportation, and you will have a build up of a number to form of what is it going to cost. And that's a number. In the same analogy, you have a gas price cost globally, you have a crude price cost, you have a coal price cost, and it varies. And if it varies, the cost of petrol, diesel at my pump or the cost of electricity in my house varies. So what is the price of such feedstock? And all the models which have got built in the CBG sector, the ethanol sector, or are getting built in the hydrogen SAF sector are based on a hand getting raised and somebody putting an Excel sheet number. And that's what has gone through in the system right to the banking channel, and projects are not viable at that number. All the oil marketing company projects are pegged at a 2 rupee number. And the electricity sector regulator in a country, CERC and SERCs, have the same biomass price at 4 rupee 50 paisa per kg, 4,500 rupee per number. The same commodity, a regulator has given 4,500 rupees, but we have built the bioenergy numbers at 2,000 rupees. What has changed and who has changed this? So I'm not saying it should be 4,500 or it should be 2,000. What should it be will become a function of efficiency build up to be done in the upstream sector for feedstock supply chain management. And thereby, we have a regulatory mechanism to put that pricing? No. Do we have a open market tender process to understand what this pricing will be? No. It has been left at best for the midstream sector to grapple with. Because we said, Satat scheme, we will buy from 5,000 projects. So I'm restricting myself to the upstream segment for this webinar. We can talk about others as well, but that is what has been mandated to me. So there is a gap. Now, there have been in the last 7 years of me participating in global tenders of oil marketing companies for biomass supply. And only out of almost 10 tenders done by IOC, BPC, HPC, and all of them, only one tender has gone through till date, and we are the winners of that tender, for HPCL Badayu CBG plant. And the pricing there, because that plant, the biomass sourcing is, let's say, 100 kilometers away, XYZ, various reasons, things. The pricing there of biomass is plus minus 4 rupees per kg delivered to the plant on some parameters. With all the risk of aggregation, capital investment for supply chain management, storage, insurance, warehousing, and delivery to the client on the biomass aggregator supplier, that's the upstream side. So what is the midstream segment done? It has transferred all its risk to the upstream segment. And now if you start pricing risk and you put all the risk on the upstream segment, which bank is going to finance? And these contracts are not take or pay. आपने घास इकट्ठा कर लिया, लेकिन वो HPCL का प्लांट फॉर व्हाटएवर रीजन अंडर कैपेसिटी चल रहा है या नहीं चल रहा है, तो ये घास को उठाने के भी पैसे देने पड़ते हैं. So that means you have it in warehousing, but on the offtake side, for technology reasons, for other reasons, the midstream segment is yet not performing because it is an industry which is still growing, still maturing. We wanted to perform, work is happening, and hence, what do you do on the upstream side? You kill the upstream player. You don't allow the upstream segment to survive. Let's take, for example, IOCL Panipat, 2G ethanol plant, inaugurated by Honorable Prime Minister on 10th of August 22. We are 2 years down the line of the global inauguration. चलता ही नहीं है. हम पब्लिक फोरम में अपने आप को बोलते हैं कि हमने लगा लिया और चलता है. सॉरी, नहीं चलता है. 2 साल हो गए. One of the problem statement is upstream supply chain management. And IOCL, in the model that they wanted to work, tenders, etc., they have got farmers, FPOs, state government, everybody involved, and they have collected biomass. Fantastic. Close to 100,000 tons, 1 lakh tons is IOCL's number. 2 साल से खेत में सड़ गया वो 1 लाख टन बायोमास. So will somebody come forward to do this? No. Will some bank to come to fund this? No. IOCL from its balance sheet has done it because we are maturing our technology. Same example, HPCL Bhatinda, same example, BPCL Bargarh, same example, Numaligarh, same example, MRPL, and so on and so forth. We have not invested in upstream supply chain management, and hence we are grappling. And we are going to government to say, आप subsidize कर दो, आप equipment दे दो, आप farmer को free दे दो, हरियाणा state government 2,500 रुपए per ton दे देगी. आप किसी भी side से, you can squeeze and get things. These are not sustainable models. Are we going to build this industry based on subsidies that government is going to dole out? My answer is no. My recommendation is no. चाहे 2,500 रुपए हरियाणा सरकार दे दे, 1,000 रुपए IOCL दे दे, 500 रुपए एग्रीगेटर और स्टोरेज दे दे, कॉस्ट तो 4,000 रुपए हो गई ना. So why not acknowledge the cost of 4,000 rupees as an input and thereby see what is the product pricing? What is the midstream technology pricing? One way to do it, and if we are not going the regulatory mechanism way, is what we have done fantastically well with the solar and the wind sector. International competitive bidding. आपने 5,000 सतत के प्लांट अनाउंस किए और एक प्राइसिंग अनाउंस कर दिया कि हम 46 रुपीस पर केजी पे हम सीबीजी खरीदेंगे. नहीं हुआ. What was the basis of that 46 rupees? Does industry know what is the build-up of that 46 rupees in an Excel sheet basis? Sadly, no. Then जब नहीं हुआ हमने उसको 54 rupees कर दिया. What is the basis of 46 to 54? We don't know. From 54 we said नहीं हुआ, हमने 80% of pump sale price कर दिया. Let's assume pump sale price in Delhi is 100 rupees per kg of CNG. Then the producer will get 80 rupees. Why? Why 80? Why not 70? Why not 110? So that means on the upside of the business, 100 रुपए का मार्केट में आप और मैं कंज्यूमर हमारी गाड़ी में डाल रहे हैं, आप प्रोड्यूसर को 80 रुपए दे रहे हो. 20 रुपए कौन ले रहा है? IOC, BPC, HPC, oil marketing company. For what? For only providing sustainable fuel a market. 20% of the business top line just for providing a market where we are saying as India we want to go sustainable, we want farmer to get money, we want our waste problem to go. अरे जो ये प्लांट लगा रहा है उसको 120 रुपए दो और 100 में बेचो. आप उसको 80 दे रहे हो और खुद 100 में बेच रहे हो. तो what are we doing this business for? For oil marketing companies to earn? Shocking to say. We are not making a market, we are killing the market. So we don't have a transparent regulatory price mechanism. And if we are not able to do that, we might not be competent to do that. Then do a market tender. Let any private sector carry all the risk, produce it in quantity, quality, deliver it to me, and at the tender bid price, take the money. We are not doing that mechanism as well. So 7 साल हो गए हैं, we don't have a mechanism in place. And hence, how can we do it? It is a problem statement. We need to get, and I have recommended this in writing to Prime Minister's office few times, all the ministries, let us get a bioenergy task force in India under one nodal ministry, which takes the mandate of upstream resource allocation. Petroleum X, MNRE Y, Power Z, because there is co-firing mandate of Power Ministry also, rural agriculture fodder. And once this is mapped out, let the task force now carry out the work based on resource allocation for allowing and supporting midstream and downstream markets to get developed. And for all the three elements, what is critical is the finance element for all three to be set out and supportive. अगर आपने सब्सिडी और सपोर्ट अपस्ट्रीम में देना है, fair enough. नहीं देना है, fair enough. मिडस्ट्रीम में देना है, good. डाउनस्ट्रीम में देना है, good. कंज्यूमर या फार्मर को देना है, good. But उसको एक टेम्पलेट में we can put it and then support the growth of this bioenergy industry, and it will happen. That's my belief. Somebody somewhere is looking at it. Webinars like this, interaction like this, industry bodies engaging will support to impress upon government and decision makers, allow this to happen. Now on the upstream segment, and let me talk about, let's say, a success story, or let's say a problem. We work in using biomass in industrial boilers where we produce renewable steam and we supply to our clients. And this is a B2B arrangement without any government intervention, without any government subsidy, without any permission support required for this segment. And the renewable steam that we sell on a B2B segment is cheaper than the fossil fuel cost for industrial clients, and hence they do their scope 1 reduction. There is a commercial benefit to the entire value chain, and sustainably it is running 365 days a year, 24/7, because that is the input for industrial production, and on biomass, 100% biomass, no fossil fuel. How did this happen? And I'm talking about Prespal's case in particular. On the supply chain management side, which is aggregation of biomass feedstock and densification, so setting up briquetting and pelleting plants, USDFC, we could secure in Prespal from USDFC 100% credit guarantee. 100% credit guarantee. A US government has given it to a business in India and a company in India, based on which HSBC Bank in India has given the financial support for capex and opex and working capital. Thereby we are able to aggregate biomass. So there is a model where banks need some support to be able to do it. So can't we have a risk guarantee fund from Government of India to support banks for some time, for 5 years, for 10 years, to support banks to be able to mitigate some risk and then do appraisal and support this upstream segment. That means somebody will put capex for aggregation, will get maybe some collateral support, some risk guarantee support. Somebody will aggregate the material, so needs working capital. The large companies don't have to fund that. The banking support comes, and the bank also, we are mitigating the risk by providing a risk guarantee fund, which maybe the government can put up, or a group of DFIs can put up, IREDA can put up, and so on and so forth. So support for financial support in a structured, organized manner, and this will need to be large. And why I say it will need to be large, even at the aggregation cost of 2,500 rupees, and that's only the aggregation cost. And Haryana government is paying that to the farmer as a grant if you are not burning and aggregating. So government must have done some mechanism to have a number. So if that is the case, and depending on the quantum that this task force says, that let's say in a financial year, we are going to use 100 million metric tons. That means 4,000 rupees into 100 million metric tons is the credit guarantee support which will be required. If next year they go and say we are going to do 200 million metric tons, the balloon will increase. And this task force would become the nodal agency to go to finance ministry and maybe get the budgetary support, or go to line ministries and get the budgetary support, so that it is available. Or if it's not a guarantee scheme, make the money available through the banking channel. And I'm just not entering the midstream segment because it has its own challenges. That's not my mandate in the 30 minutes that I have. Now, when you have this aggregated and assume that all this is done in good order, the midstream segment has to buy it, has to take a take-or-pay arrangement. So who is going to take that risk of take or pay for the midstream segment to be able to use it? And with all due regard, I just use the reference of a IOCL Panipat or a CBG because it's evolving. Everywhere is to make it happen, but there are challenges which are getting mitigated. So that challenge phase also we have to go through. That the technology might not work, the project might not work for whatever reasons. Then what happens to this upstream segment? Who's going to pay for this? Are we going to say midstream में project लगा लिया और वो इसके पैसे नहीं देगा? Maybe not. Are we going to say that upstream वाले ने काम कर लिया but use नहीं किया तो उसका loss है? Maybe not. How do we balance it out? Some decision making is required. There's a vacuum there. And assuming both these problems are solved, where is the market? पाइपलाइन हमने प्लांट पहले लगा लिया 48 और पाइपलाइन की बात बाद में कर रहे कि अभी कनेक्टिविटी कर देते। हमने प्लांट 48 चालू कर लिया आउट ऑफ 5000। जस्ट इमेजिन अगर 5000 लग जाते और उनकी पाइपलाइन कनेक्टिव में हम बोल रहे हैं कि सीबीजी की शायद क्वालिटी ठीक नहीं है, तो पाइपलाइन वाला बोलता है जब तक मुझे क्वालिटी नहीं मिलेगी मैं पाइपलाइन में नहीं डालूंगा। व्हाट हैपेंस टू माय इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर ऑफ बिलियंस ऑफ डॉलर्स? So we need to solve his problem also of quality, quantity to come into the pipeline. When he's saying I will not accept low quality, he's right because his pipelines will get pitted. What does he do with the infrastructure development? So the downstream market segment solutions or problems need to also get recognized and simultaneously mitigated. And if all of this is not working, वो बैंक वाला बेचारा क्या करेगा जिसने पैसे दे दिए? इक्विटी वाला क्या करेगा जिसने पैसे दे दिए? So the breakdown, as I said, 4 elements need to be concurrently, coherently, taken. And then how do we cross subsidize it? We can cross subsidize it by the health costs, by the environment costs. And that's a number which government is spending every year, but loaded, back-ended. US हमको एक रिपोर्ट देता है कि $30 बिलियन नॉर्थ के पैडी बर्निंग से जीडीपी लॉस इंडिया का हर साल हो जाता है। अरे यूएस नंबर दे रहा है, हमारा नंबर क्या है? 10 बिलियन है, 15 बिलियन है, 20 है, 50 बिलियन है, वी डोंट नो। एंड लेट्स टेक दैट 30 बिलियन एज अ डेटम लाइन एंड वी से वो गलत है, हमारा 10 बिलियन का नंबर है। तो 10 बिलियन बाद में क्यों दे रहे हो? पहले दे दो, इंडस्ट्री विल यूज इट। अगर 30 बिलियन है तो 30 बिलियन पहले दे दो। So that is a possibility only government can do, because they are as it is spending the 30 billion later at your and my health cost, your and my environment cost. And government is committed decarbonization. We have not said decarbonization. We are now all mandated and forced to do decarbonization. कैसे करेंगे? And let's say if we say there has to be no support, it has to be market linked. फिर प्राइसेस ऊपर जाने दो। फिर अगर सीबीजी 200 रुपए में बनती है तो मार्केट को बोलो कि 200 रुपए में बनती है, 200 रुपए में दे रहे हैं, आप खरीद के यूज करो। So that's how the entire ecosystem today is yet lacking thought of application and continuity. And I'm actually very happy that there is continuity of ministers or there are continuity of bureaucrats. So maybe the problem statements which have been understood in the last 6-7 years would have a more concerted effort of solutions which would come up. And I sincerely hope and pray very fast as of yesterday, because nahi hoga, the financial investors which are looking at this sector will move away. The large industries which have started looking will write it off and move away. And like the Jatropa programs or what we have had in the past, 10-15 साल के बाद हम बोलेंगे ये नहीं हो सकता भाई इंडिया में, let's go away. And it is happening globally. Europe is all on gas grid. US today is all on gas grid. And why so? Because there is a pricing support. So we are a developing country. Maybe we are, I should say that because we match up to the world everywhere. So if we aren't able to give that price long term, at least let's give it for a defined period. 5 साल, 10 साल, 7 साल, जब बैंक का पैसा वापस मिल जाए. So one element so that the bank can start supporting. And 10 साल में ये industry पूरी mature हो जाएगी, significantly आगे बढ़ जाएगी. And benefits are there. Let's start mapping the benefits. Let's start, paying for the benefits. Again, a value added of carbon markets. So if we have a carbon pricing, which we are going to pay later, let's discount it and bring that pricing today in the support of all the three elements. Something on the upstream, something on the midstream, and something on the downstream. Let's split it out and allow it to happen. So वो carbon pricing भी हमारी development हो रही है अभी. So I'll pause here. I've kind of tried to bring a perspective. I can go on and on for hours in each of the segment to bring solutions. I have written pages and pages and of this document across all ministries. I have submitted it. One more big thing which we have done, and kudos to the government. India is the leader akin to the International Solar Alliance of the Global Bioenergy Alliance. In my view, the biggest takeaway of India's presidency of G20. That means we have told the world, along with US and Brazil, that we will lead the Global Bioenergy Alliance. Fantastic. पहले अपना घर तो ठीक कर लो. मतलब हम अभी दुनिया को सिखाने जा रहे हैं कि अब हम पूरे अफ्रीका को, ग्लोबल साउथ को come and join Global Biofuel Alliance. Who is leading Global Biofuel Alliance? Announced last year on 9th and 10th of September. मेरा जन्मदिन है 10th September तो याद है मुझे. We are in June today. Do we have a DG Global Biofuel Alliance? No. Do we have a Secretariat of Global Biofuel Alliance? No. So what do we want? We want fast, consistent policy, regulation, market making. And if we have Global Biofuel Alliance, and let's say India is the test bed to do it, and then take it to the world, get the money from the US, France, Brazil, etc., DFIs of the world, and let's implement it. So we need consistency in a ministry or in a mission or in a directorate for bioenergy in India. So we set house in order and start working. And at the same time, with the Global Fuel Alliance, a potential to take it globally where India becomes the test bed, the market, the know-how to teach the entire global south and global world of how it can be done. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Colonel Ahuja. I think you have talked about very, very relevant issues. We would not have come to know of this. We hear about them here and now. But one thing I will not, after hearing you, I feel instead of a task force, which is fine, should we not have a dedicated organization like Solar Energy Corporation of India, dedicated company who will make the policy, who will take risk guarantee fund, who will do international competitive bidding, that will facilitate an offtake agreement. And then, because otherwise it becomes very, very fragmented. So if there is a dedicated organization who is exclusively doing this, the success of solar was because we had created a Solar Energy Corporation. Had it been with the ministry, it doesn't work. You need a continuity. So you have something like a Bioenergy Corporation of India, who will do the guarantee, who will take PPA, who will discuss with all the different ministries, come with the policy, the money will come there. Will it solve the problem?
Yes, sir, absolutely. So again, sir, be it a mission mode, be it an organization, be it a corporation, the message is that in all the four segments, allow fair and free play of pricing, market linked, start squeezing it. I'm not saying I gave a number of 4 rupees. Why should it be 4 rupees? What are the efficiencies to bring to the table across the segment to bring it down to 3 rupees, to bring it down to 2 rupees, to bring it down to free? I don't know. We need to work on that. Does the cost of money, bringing it down, brings down my input cost on the upstream side? Yes. Let us allow it to happen.
So, Manish, the corporation alone cannot do. It has to be a full-fledged ministry under Prime Minister. Because in 2013, we had a proposal from MNRE for the creation of Bioenergy Corporation of India, like we created SECI. So, but then the complications and the number of ministries involved in bioenergy and biofuel, because we have bioenergy under MNRE, biofuel under the Ministry of Petroleum. So you need to have a very strong ministry to really scale it up. Corporations also may not be able to do this because they have to consult different ministries, and different ministries, the way things are there today, would not respond until and unless you have a very strong ministry of bioenergy.
Dr. Suresh sir, I agree. And my document to the Prime Minister's office said a bioenergy task force under either the Cabinet Secretary or the Prime Minister's office directly for a period of 5 years, and then transferred to a satellite organization or a line ministry, so that each of these 5-6 ministries, which you rightly said, I also mentioned, reports directly of the progress made. And the simplest way of the progress accounting is, if $30 million has been 30 million tons of utilization has been earmarked for MNRE, then better do it in 2 years' time. If 50 million tons or 500 million tons is earmarked for petroleum, then you better utilize that resource, because it's a national resource available going waste for non-utilization. So there is a baby, but there is no papa to support it. So give it a direction, give it a target, and monitor the target and make it public. So that's the kind of document. Happy to share it with anybody if they want to have a read.
Satat is under Ministry of Petroleum for the biofuels, the bio-CNG. And the subsidy of 1750 crores is given to MNRE. MNRE doesn't have any authority to decide the gas prices. So,
and the subsidy for supply chain management, I was part of that government committee. My 2 saal laga raha, is being given by Ministry of Agriculture. And the pricing and the documentation of the portal is Ministry of Rural Development, and जहाँ पर वो scheme है. मतलब आप एक project लगा रहे हैं, and you have to go to 4 ministries to actually make it happen.
Fine, sir. Sir, we will again take it up in the question hour. Let me invite the next speaker. He is Mr. Gurvinder Mohan Singh. He is MD Carbon Circle, and he has put up his first biogas plant. Let us hear from him what difficulties he faced and how he is, coping up with the things. Over to Mr. Gurvinder.
Yeah, thanks, Populi Saab. It was a pleasure listening to Manish earlier on the challenges from the upstream sector. So to all audience, I've spent the first 20 years of my career in power sector. I kind of was starting my career when Shahi Saab was the secretary. So whatever I think of the bioenergy sector comes from that perspective. The comparison is always with that. And I think in today's webinar also, those comparisons have been made by even Shahi Saab, in terms of why was solar a success, and how can this be done. So a few things. I also slice my business into 3 parts: upstream, midstream, and downstream. So upstream, Manish has spoken about. And I'll also kind of take the same, approach. The challenges that we have faced. We have just commissioned our first plant in Bareilly, Uttar Pradesh. And this is based on press mud. Now, typically 3 feedstocks are being spoken of in the country. One is press mud, napier grass, and paddy straw. Each of these have their own, peculiarities. Press mud comes from a single source. Napier grass has to come from multiple farmers, and paddy straw has to come from even more farmers. The risks are known in these 3 feedstocks. If we are talking about a scalable business, then press mud has limitations. To give you a perspective, in Uttar Pradesh, there are only 30 sugar factories who have more than, I would say, ability to support each of them more than 5 TPD. And 5 TPD is the minimum project that we are seeing being built these days. So which means if we are talking about scaling business, press mud is not an option. It will be an option, but not an option for a scalable business. And the scalable business, when we talk, I also look at from in terms of the other sectors, say a private equity fund if it wants to deploy, say, $200 million, now $200 million would be what? 1,500, 1,600 crores, and you say take another 50% debt, that makes it 3,000 crore. 3,000 crore at 6 crore TPD is 500 TPDs. So can 500 TPD a company support based on placement? That's not possible. I mean, that's again provided that everybody gets placement. So placement has this peculiarity. Paddy straw, I think, and I when we go through midstream and downstream also, I think a common strain is coming is that we, the decision makers, the mentors of this industry have been very ambitious. Whether in terms of like paddy straw, right? Now, paddy straw is a fuel which has its own difficulties in terms of fermenting. Typically, anything which has more moisture gets fermented easily. Anything which is low moisture gets burnt easily. So when you talk about biofuels, we talk about, say, liquid, gas, and solid. So liquid being ethanol, gas being CBG, and solid being briquettes. For some reason, our decision makers, I mean, not for some reason, it's a known reason that paddy straw burning, paddy stubble burning causes pollution. And therefore, there's been a significant push towards use of paddy straw for biogas. I personally feel, I mean, again, this is about being ambitious, right? So when we are taking the first step in an industry, should we take upon a challenge which even others are afraid of? So that comes to paddy straw and paddy straw aggregation. I think I will not delve deeper into that. And why is it important to talk about these three different feedstocks is because of exactly what Manish mentioned earlier in terms of the pass-through of pricing. Ethanol, which has feedstock-based pricing. So if you're making ethanol from molasses, you get a different pricing. If you make it from syrup, you get a different pricing. If you make it from maize, it's a different pricing. Why can't the same formula be followed here? And I think whether it is a task force or a BAKI or a regulator, somebody has to step in and understand this. So that's the challenge on upstream. How did we mitigate it? Is first plant, we did a long-term agreement with the sugar mill. Our next plants, we are more inclined towards napier grass. And I'll just give you some trivia, because when I first thought of getting into this sector, I was comparing it with my experience at Power Finance Corporation. I was at PFC when I started my career. We used to do biomass-based thermal power projects back then in Andhra Pradesh. And we, all of us, I think quite a few of us were there in PFC at that time. And we remember that holy number of 800 rupees per ton for rice husk. And then in front of our eyes, we also saw, I think, a couple of projects that I appraised, and then I left PFC, also became bankrupt. So, yeah. So we were all aware of all these challenges, but I still came into this sector. And the thing is simple. If you see a 6 megawatt thermal power project, a biomass-based thermal power project, and if you say a 10 tons of CBG project, the investments are similar, which means from an investor perspective, the investments are similar, but the land that you would require, because to grow the feedstock is very, very different. If we were to grow napier grass only for a 10-ton plant, I think we can do it in 350 to 400 acres. And to give a perspective, a single village has, I mean, when I say a single village, maybe something which is 500 meters to 1 kilometer radius, we easily get that kind of material. I mean, to just give perspective, our tehsil, which has been allocated to us, the command area, Bahedi, that has 150,000 acres of irrigated agricultural land. And all that we need is 350 acres. If we were to just go on napier, which means hardly 0.some%. As compared to this, if you were to run a 6 megawatt biomass-based power project, I think the numbers come to some 6,000 acres of land. It's a different, obviously, from a 6 megawatt plant, you are producing, and I'm talking of Juliflora there. Say we were growing Juliflora, which again was in vogue, 20 years back when we were doing those projects. I mean, again, you're producing more calories there. There's no doubt. A 6 megawatt plant is not comparable to a 10-ton plant in terms of energy. But having said that, from an investor perspective, it is similar. You have similar investments and similar returns. So one learning, the mitigation for us is, or the success is that, this is not biomass, so let's not be too bothered about it. How do we get napier grass grown? There are various methods being tried by various people. I think we'll come to a solution. Then we come to midstream. So midstream, my learning very quickly, very early. So when I selected the sector to start my next venture, I wanted to do something in waste, and among all the 5-6 options in waste, this seemed to be something which is very neat and clean. Payments come from a counterparty like GAIL or HPCL. You don't have to get too bothered about it. And midstream building projects is something that I have done kind of all my life. So sounded similar, but I would say 6 months in the journey. And I was also riding on my success from the last venture, which was for 10 years. So I was kind of, maybe taking it lightly, but somewhere middle of the journey, I figured out that this is not solar. Solar is way easy. Solar is way easy. It is a DIY. Anybody sitting on this call, even if they want to do it today, they can do it. It's a DIY. And that also brings me to another conclusion, is this, that there are two parts to business. One is business model innovation, and the other is technology innovation. This sector is not yet there. Unfortunately, we are a lot of people are talking of business model innovations in this, retailing of gas, C&I sale of gas. We are still grappling with technology. I think, again, quoting from what Manish said earlier, 48 plants or 68 plants, 3 of them stable. Would love to know about them, because I have been trying to get data. I have been trying to ask people if you can share 1 year of operational data with me, which shows that the plant is able to run at rated capacity. Because it is only when we have a predictable production of any product. So predictable production means the quantity and the quality. That is when we can go and have a customer. So if we today want to go to, say, Britannia and tell them that we'll supply you 5 tons of gas every day for the next 5 years, do we know for sure that we'll be able to produce that? So that is what I know today. I hope, and I think things are anyway improving, because now we have, I would say right now as we talk, maybe 100 plants under construction. So people will ultimately come to a solution. But the approach that we took, and I think I have been talking about it in other places also, we are trying to reinvent the wheel. It is not a sector which is being done for the first time. In Europe, these plants have been built by thousands. There are 2 parts to it, like the solar module and inverter. Here we have the digester and the upgradation plant. Digesters have been built by thousands in Germany. Smaller, bigger, the sizes that we are doing, similar sizes. Some of them smaller, but these sizes also have been built. They have been built in US, they've been built in France. For some reason, I find that, we are kind of, getting too ambitious with getting down to doing everything ourselves. And that is also a reason of, frankly, at one level, this is gobar gas. 40 years back, India started doing it. So what's the big deal? We've been producing methane from gobar. So what's the big deal in doing this? But the idea is to do predictable production, predictable, again, quantity and quality at industrial scale, which means that small tweaks, right? A valve here, a valve there, small oxygen. So, we have something called hydrogen sulfide being produced in the biogas. Either we clean it outside, and then cleaning is costly, again, depending on which technology you take. But a small oxygen concentrator in the digester itself ensures that, and it has to be a controllable chemical reaction, which will reduce the hydrogen sulfide. As I understand, now this is being now done in projects by some companies which had not done this earlier. But this is a standard fixture if you were to buy from, say, a contractor in Germany. So midstream, that is the learning. The other thing is Feedstock storage. That has been taken lightly, even by us. I mean, to be honest, we have an approach which we are. I think hopefully we should test out soon. That like we have press mud for 6 months. Now that press mud for 6 months has to be then used for the entire year, and our site goes through temperatures of 45 degrees and 4 degrees both, and obviously 3 months of significant rain. Our idea is to do rostering, which would mean that we use press mud during the cane crushing, which is November to April, and we use Napier during the other 6 months. I mean, not like 100%, but say 80-20 and 20-80. Because interestingly, Napier is complementary to press mud, because during winters, no plant grows because of absence of sunlight. I mean, hardly grows. So which means that you can do rostering. But before this year, what we have done is we have stored press mud, and last year also we stored some press mud because we had to buy it, and we have seen significant deterioration. Now that is a very, very critical, and as I have gone to other plants, I have seen all of us make the same mistakes. So sounds very simple, but we have to understand that in the midstream also, if you do not have feedstock, what will you process? You may have a great plant, but the feed, because I mean there's something called organic dry matter, which is what leads to methane. And in the organic dry matter, you have something called as the digestibles, which is what creates gas. So 3 parts to midstream, I would say: digester, the biogas upgradation plant, and the feedstock storage. We actually reached out to EPC contractors in India when we started this business. But my hypothesis was, and what it was turned out to be true also, my hypothesis was that it is too early for us to get a LSTK kind of a contract, a lump sum turnkey contract, as we were used to getting in solar. Solar, we could award it to, say, a company like Sterling Wilson, and rest assured that after 6 months, 9 months, we would get the plant. A good, reliable plant, obviously with our supervision commissioned. But herein, I think everybody is kind of new. So even the EPC contractors are new for whatever they claim. It's more like an open book approach. So nothing is for sure. Therefore, we decided, again, the approach that I had followed earlier in my solar journey, that we will do it ourselves. And we split the entire project into packages and awarded the package to who we thought would be the best. Like our digester package, which means designing, equipment supply, construction supervision, that went to one of the top 3 global companies. The company's name is Planet. I mean, just in case somebody is interested. So we awarded it to them, which means that we got everything, even the SDP pipes coming in from Germany. Expensive, but I think that's the bet that we took. We had almost 10 people coming from them for various times, almost, I would say, 10-man months in construction supervision. That's the approach that we took on digesters. On the biogas upgradation plant, we had various options. We went ahead with membranes, which is a considered for this size of plant is one of the most advanced technologies. Now where we are. So that was the construction part. And I think which is what now everybody else is also figuring out, maybe some of them ahead of me, is that building plant is only one part. It is the operations. And operations, 2 things immediately that, because we have just commissioned the plant, so we will, I hope we don't find out any more significant challenges, but 2 things that immediately come to my mind is biology and cascade logistics. Interestingly, we had sited our plant next to an upcoming gas pipeline. So all our plants, this one and the next ones, we have selected land sites which are near the gas pipeline, because we were never, a fan of cascades. Unfortunately, in our case, our off-taker decided, HPCL decided that they will not be building the pipe. They kind of stopped it 25 kilometers ahead of us. So today we have this problem where we have to supply it through cascades. So cascade logistics, again, scaling up, right? So again, we go back to that number of $200 million deployment and building 500 TPD, which means say 25 to 50 plants, and think of the management of that company. And I mean, all of anybody who's running a startup on this, in this forum would know that everything comes up to the management team. So if the management bandwidth is being blocked in, whether the cascade has reached the site or not, or how much gas has been flared, so that's a pity. but in operations, cascade logistics, and the biology. Because I think once the engineering part is fixed, so this was mechanical engineering, this has electrical engineering, civil engineering, chemical engineering. I think engineering is one binary, 1 or 0. Press the button, the machine has to start. After we fix all this, then we will face the bacteria, which has a mind of its own. So biology is what we will be focused on. And hopefully that, once we, I think we should be able to solve that. Finally, I come to downstream. And downstream, Bobli Saab has already mentioned the challenges. I'll just, maybe touch upon them slightly. There are 3 streams of revenue. There is CBG, manure, and carbon credits. Now, CBG, neither we have certainty on offtake, nor we have certainty on pricing. Coming from infrastructure, solar, I will not quote for roads, but roads have a similar, I'll not talk about roads, but coming from power. Now, power, you have utility PPAs. We were talking about SECI, right? SECI has sticky revenues. There's a number which is written down for the next 25 years. Do we have that certainty in CBG? Absolutely not. And a sector which is just starting, why should it be, see, it's a complicated sector. There's an upstream, there's a midstream and downstream. And if there are too many risks open, I don't think it will attract people. And that is the reason that today we are only seeing, so today, what's the landscape? The landscape is very, very large corporates are, it's only them. And it's both private and public. We are talking of, say, the oil and gas manufacturing companies, or we're talking of Reliance and Adani. Now, their reasons for doing it, or what is their approach, is this something that I think it's better left to them, why to talk. But can we have the kind of vibrancy that we had in solar? Solar, how many startups were produced by solar? I would say utility solar itself would have produced maybe a score of 2 dozens of large companies. Rooftop solar has produced, C&I segments, large companies also has produced maybe a dozen of companies. Residential solar, though, I will not even talk of how many it has generated. And then the drop-down effect of that has been significant. So it has spawned hundreds of companies who have then attacked the problem in their own ways. But today, who is on the CBG landscape? It's only large companies. Can we expect innovation from large companies? See, it's nothing against them. It is just that it is a fact that large corporates have their own ways of approaching things, and therefore, you will not be able to accept innovation. So therefore, then that was the pricing issue. Now, without a certainty on pricing, either you give us the best, I would say the best approach would have been like this. If it was a tolling arrangement, the feedstock comes in at a cost and a rate is being given by the off-taker. That way, people initial 2-3 years would have focused on stabilizing the technology, and we would not have been talking of that 68 plants, only 2-3 are stable. The first part that all of us Indian entrepreneurs had to do was to stabilize the technology, but we were left to take care of the pricing, that risk also, the upstream risk also. The other thing is offtake. On CBG, I spoke about pricing. On offtake, you see cascade issues lead to flaring. 15th August, Diwali, summer holidays, no traffic, some roads, more traffic, some roads, less traffic. All these uncertainties who takes. Then, I think the other thing is this 5,000 LOIs issue, right? I think the government took a very good approach by saying that, look, we will issue you LOIs, and wherever you set up the plant, we will offtake it. Great. But this approach, the off-takers did not do any studies. Is there enough demand there? The first thing that should have been done is that they should have assessed the demand. Now, say today I go and set up a 50 TPD plant, there's nothing that stops me. But does my CGD, city gas area in the 25 kilometer radius, 50 kilometer radius, 75 kilometer radius, have that demand? No. So LOIs were issued without, and this data was easily available with the city gas companies, by the way. It is not that it was not available with them. It was very easily available with them, but it was not delved into. The solution that we have, in this given constraint, what the assurances that we are kind of giving ourselves is that on offtake, the good thing that has come out is the obligation, the CBO, the compressed biogas purchase obligation. Unfortunately, it is very low. Even when it is fully blown out at 5% after 3 years, it will only convert to some 900 to 1000 TPD. And to just put things in perspective, today, I think we are talking of some 100 plants by PSUs itself. Say each plant is 15 TPD, then we are talking of PSUs itself kind of closing it. And I'm not talking about Reliance. So Reliance is doing another 50 plants as we talk. That's another 1000 TPD. So the blending obligation will be immediately saturated. Good too, that's a trigger, but I don't think that will be a long-term assurance. The way we are approaching it is that we are siting all our plants next to the city gas grid, and now the next plant, at least we will only site it next to an operational city gas pipeline and not rely on any plants. Because once we are embedded in the system, then I think there is a offtake assurance. On pricing, our view is that while crude oil pricing is very uncertain, the Indian retail pricing is not that uncertain. So we have done some analysis. I think that's a publicly available data. If you were to run a volatility, statistic on crude oil pricing, you will find that even the intraday volatility of crude oil, I think, goes up to some 20-30% if you do it for the last 5 years. Whereas the volatility of petrol pricing for the last 5 years in India has been hardly 2 to 3%. Unlike the power sector where we have regulators, here, obviously we also have a regulator here, but I think the broad thing is that like the power sector, this sector also has government intervention because there is an end user. And therefore, the concern on pricing is not as much. I mean, while we'll keep on asking for pricing certainty, whether the pricing will significantly change, I don't think so. Because of the end user being involved. The last two things, manure and carbon credits. So in CBG, we had two risks. Sale of CBG, we had the risk of offtake and pricing. In manure, we have an additional risk, which is the market. See, the oil and gas marketing companies, they were buying a product which is an alternate for a product for which they have an existing market. So they are today selling CNG. Instead of CNG, they will sell bio-CNG. So they don't have to create a market. Whereas in manure, if we go to the fertilizer companies, they have been selling urea, DAP. For them to sell manure, they will have to create a new market. And that is where we see the lukewarm response from fertilizer companies. And the quantums of production are huge. If you were to produce 10 tons of biogas every day, we are talking of 40 tons of manure every day. So that is a significant challenge. Today, we don't talk about effluents from the biogas plants. We don't talk about liquid from the biogas plant. You go to a sugar mill and see how much concerned they are about all these effluents. And I'm thinking that it's typically government supports any sector for 3 years. The moment the government stops watching us over, I am sure that the pollution control board people will jump in, and all these biogas plants will have these concerns about liquid effluents. Unless the fertilizer market is developed, which I don't see happening. The last thing is carbon credits. Today, we don't know who will keep it, whether the developer will get it or the oil and gas marketing companies will get it. We were expecting some revenue from that, but what I hear is that these credits will go to the oil and gas marketing companies, which kills it. Because the good thing that happened was that this CBG, like green ammonia, was included under the 13 technologies which were notified for sale under 6.2 and 6.4, which is sale abroad. Because as was the case with RECs, we don't expect Indian markets to give high prices for carbon credits, but we expect prices to come from other countries. But if the credits themselves are not available to be sold and they go to the oil companies, then even that revenue stream goes away. So these are this is a long list of challenges. We have kind of thought them through. It would be good. We have thought them through. We make some understanding on LNG markets, on government intervention on downstream pricing. So therefore, we have confidence. But I don't think unless a more structured, not say structured, let's say a stronger policy certainty and a stronger visibility, long-term visibility is provided, I don't think the sector would be able to attract startups. It may attract large corporates, but startups would be difficult to attract. So that would be from my side.
Yeah. Dr. Naresh Arora.
Thank you, Gurvinder, for raising some very relevant points. In fact, we had a meeting with Chairman Indian Oil, and the last 2 points you talked about, he said, where is the fertilizer market? He says, without fertilizer, these projects don't become viable. He also said, can you tell us about the carbon credits? How do we get it? Is there agency? So this question, of course, whether the oil marketing company gets in their case, of course, they are the same. But then that is also a big issue that needs to be decided. Whether it should go to, basically it should go to the developer who is taking all the risk. But let us see what happens. And great to hear you. And I think Dr. MP Singh from PEDA has not joined. So I'll request Chairman Indian Biogas Association, Mr. Gaurav Kedia. IBA is working in this field for, I don't know, I have not checked, but must be more than 10 years. They are supporting this industry. And also I will be happy to share with the audience that Global Biogas Alliance has also opened a satellite office in India recently. So I am sure maybe together they can create some synergy and they can work together. So with these words, I'll now invite Mr. Gaurav Kedia.
Just one small point I just wanted to make. Tell you, Gaurav, you go on.
Maybe, sir, after this one or?
That's right, after this one, because Gurvinder mentioned about the CGD GS which has been awarded. Now the CGD GS, which 300 CGD GS have been awarded, and the requirement is going to be around about 50 million standard cubic meter of gas. Whether the CGD GS could create biogas plant, that's an option. But let's say like when we initiated solar mission way back in 2009, government had a proper roadmap of going up to 2200 megawatt of plant and 90,000 crores of subsidies on solar. So that roadmap was there. We don't have a similar roadmap for the bioenergy. So how to create that roadmap? Now, Gaurav, you can move.
Yeah.
Sure. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Prabhuli Saab. Thank you, India Energy Forum. And very happy to share view of especially Indian Biogas Association. And I think my co-panelists, they have already taken their heart out. And it's very important, to figure out the gap, and then only we can bridge it. So what I will do now, maybe I can take a step back so that we understand why we are, talking together. And, always we say that a goal without a plan is just a wish. So we need to figure out the wish and then the plan. I think that's the motto anyways. I was told to share the IBS perspective, especially from biogas point of view. So let me just share our perspective and happy to answer the questions, if any. But again, as I told you that I will take a step back and try to start from the basic. I've been given around 15 minutes, maybe 15, 16 minutes I will take. So let's start the journey straightforwardly. So I hope everyone can see my slides. So basically, when you talk about, how do you say, biogas, and we talk about circular economy. So this is the picture which we are trying to portray. So what is happening over here? So I would say that if there are newcomers and if you want to really understand the very basic of it, it's important. Even though you are advanced into it, it's very important to get a feel about it. So when you read something, you gain the knowledge the way it is happening right now. But at the same time, it's very important that you get the feel about the whole phenomena as far as the biogas is concerned. So at very high level, what we see over here is that in nature, in fact, the biomass grows in presence of sunlight and CO2 and H2O. Of course, the plant takes, let's say, fertilizer from Mother Earth, and then biomass is there, and then let's say cows will eat or animal will eat this biomass, then you get the milk, etc. It goes to the dairy industry, then spent wash, etc. can go to the biogas plant, or the biomass can directly go to the biogas plant, or the animal manure, etc. can go to the biogas plant. And then what happens that you get the energy, and then you can transform this energy into anything, be it thermal energy, electrical energy, or vehicular energy, any energy you're talking. So if you see, we have intentionally put sun and how do you say this output energy at the same level. So basically, anything which you are getting is ultimately coming from sun in this case. So you can see biomass in a very different manner as well. That it's like a battery. So biomass is storing the energy, and or I would say nature is storing the energy in a very beautiful manner. And whatsoever is left, we call that fermented organic manure. But for a layman, we have just written fertilizer over here. It should go back to the Mother Earth, and the reason is very simple, because we are mining from Mother Earth as far as the nutrients are concerned. So it should go back to the Mother Earth. Otherwise, we'll veer towards the infertility of the land. So that's the basic idea about the whole biogas, about the circular economy, about anything which is related with the biogas in general. So you can talk about job creation, you can talk about a lot of other impacts with it, but at the same time, it has to be financially viable. So normally in the next slide, I think we'll talk about the small scale biogas plant and the large scale biogas plant. And the small scale biogas plants are normally impact driven. And please don't get confused. Very, very clear. Small and even community size. These are impact driven one. Profit is not at the center, but the large scale biogas plant, it's mainly business driven or profit driven. Of course, when you talk about the outcome, a lot of other impacts can be thought about. And I think my co-panelists, they were talking about upstream, midstream, and downstream. So if you really see, so basically when it comes to the supply chain, etc., so these all are being covered in the upstream part, um, even this as well. And then comes the midstream where you are doing the processing, etc. And when it comes to the utilization of fertilizer or let's say biogas or bioenergy, then it falls under upstream. We'll be talking about that as well, but I think a lot has already been covered. So what I'm saying that you know let's take a step back, try to understand the reason behind it, why we have gathered over here, and then going further, as I told you, that the small scale and even the community side biogas plants are mainly driven from the impact perspective. If there is some monetary benefit, it's always welcome. We can quantify that, everything is fine. But the core remains as far as the social impact is concerned. Otherwise, when you talk about the large scale biogas plant, of course, there are a few plants which are policy driven in the large scale sector as well. For example, if you go to the distilleries section, or even if you talk about, let's say, STP based biogas plant, so many a times people even opt for such possibilities, or they were opting for such possibilities mainly because of the policy. So I'm not denying that. But nevertheless, today I think we are mainly concentrating on the large scale biogas plant. Okay, when it comes to CBG versus CNG, you can do the comparison, but the CBG mainly is, how do you say, methane. You don't have a higher hydrocarbon, and don't get confused with minimum how do you say, methane content into it. I mean, 90% is what BIS is saying. And if you really do the maths properly, in 2013, they issued the first one. Then in 2016, there was a revised one. Now there is another proposed one in that normally we are talking about minimum 96% of methane content. But this is just to give you a feel that what's the difference between CNG and CBG. I think earlier there was a discussion about the potential in India, and that's very true. That we have done our own analysis. IOCL has done its own analysis, and people differ on it. But it's not a wide difference, I would say. I think under Satat they are talking about 15 million metric ton of bio CNG or CBG being produced as a target per annum. So if you really see the whole value over here, it comes out to be around 60 million metric ton. And there's a lot of difference between potential and potential that can be harnessed. And if you really see, for example, I'm sitting in Delhi NCR, and tons and tons of municipal solid waste is available. But is it available to me? That too for the right price, the right quantity, quality? Well, that's a big question. In fact, that's why when we talk about upstream, we always talk about availability, and then availability to us. That is very, very important. Otherwise, believe me, a lot of people, they do this kind of mistake that a lot of dung is available, a lot of municipal solid waste is available, but when it comes to availability to us, it's always a big question mark. Well, if you see, a lot of things are already there. A lot of policy push is already being there. The only thing is that still we want more or less, let's say, from the upstream side to be stabilized, from the downstream side, especially when it comes to the fertilizer or fermented organic manure. In fact, from association side, we are also pitching for Satat-like scheme for fermented organic manure. It has already been put forth, I think, around 2 years ago, even in the parliamentary committee note, officially. And we are further pushing it, trying to meet all this fertilizer marketing company, because that's one of the very important linkages. Of course, now MDA is there. Further, we can just push it. We can try to really figure out some more possibilities. But unless until we don't have the option to sell this fertilizer in bulk, it's always a question mark. And when it comes to the fertilizer marketing companies, for them it's nothing. In fact, if I just talk about even the whole potential in general, so we need to figure out a mechanism. So at IBA, we always try to talk about technical bucket, financial bucket, and social bucket. When you talk about social bucket, a lot of social modeling can be done. For example, selling fertilizer is always an issue, and it will remain an issue. Let's accept it in bulk, in fact. Yeah, but selling bio product or organic product is not an issue. I mean, especially after Corona, given a choice, I would also like to opt for organic food instead of going for any food. And we need to really model it out, and this can only be done locally. And that's one of the major difference when you talk about solar and biogas. Biogas is a project; it's not a product, especially the large-scale biogas plant. And we need to be very sure about its feasibility beforehand. We need to be proactive. Otherwise, if you are being reactive, it's too late. So I'm just trying to talk about the social bucket, which is very, very important in a country like India. Even when you talk about the upstream side, India is a relationship-driven society. We can have all the system in place, we can have, all kind of condition in place, but at the end of the day, it's a system-driven, a relationship-driven society. So we need to keep all this point in mind. And of course, when it comes to the dealing with different departments, it's really a pain. So we are also trying to push for single window clearance. We are also trying to ensure that smoothness in the whole value chain is there. Because right now, if I have to run to one ministry for CFA, if I have to go to second ministry, to deal with the gas, then again different ministry for fertilizer, and now even Ministry of Jal Shakti is there. So it no fun, in fact, or otherwise there should be enough money into it, so that there is a pull factor. Because right now we are talking about all the push factors. There has to be a pull factor. In fact, we are also advocating very hard that we are benchmarking green with gray, which is okay, but it should not be below the gray. It should be above the gray. You should get premium on it. So right now, as a rule of thumb, we are getting 20% lesser than the CNG price in market, right? It should be other way around. Of course, one way could be that we just demand that let's have 20% more, 20% more. The other way could be that let's have a green credit which can be encased. We can put system in place, and if I see other way around, the price which I am getting, this 20% lesser, for from oil marketing company point of view, they are not doing any favor, which is fine, because if you see VAT versus GST, this much money they are anyway saving, and that's why they are able to buy it out. So for them, perhaps it's the same thing. So they should also try to put their skin in the game. So they are actually not putting anything into it. It's just as if they are buying natural gas, compressing it, and then in similar manner they are buying CBG. So we need to be very pragmatic, and that's why we are trying to talk with all the different ministries to be even more vocal and to be more acceptable as far as this sector is concerned, because of the intrinsic benefit, not because that we are just on demand side. We also want to really justify it. Of course, I mean, figures may vary. This is already an old slide, but 46, 48, 65, any numbers, but these are the numbers we can count on fingers. What we are aiming for is this one, that in future we should have this kind of scenario in India. I mean, Germany, such a small country, perhaps 10, 11 times smaller than us, it can have 10,000 plant. So India can have 10 into 11, of course, theoretically. So 5,000 plant is nothing as such, but of course we need to have the right strategy. We need to have the right investment ecosystem. We need to have the right mechanism to really take care of upstream, midstream, downstream side. Then only this will happen. And one of the main difference which we also see, if I compare with Germany, let's say, in Germany, plants are mainly put up by farmers, or I would say the owners are there at the plant. In India, one of the mistake which we are doing, we are trying to consider this at nascent stage itself, that it's an industry and I can just sit in the AC room and I can just run it. Of course, I mean that will be the ideal scenario, but it has not worked outside India as well. The plant owner is sitting at the plant. It's as simple as it, be it in Germany, be it in Denmark, if you just try to look at it. So I think when it comes to the ownership of such project and accountability for such project, we should really make sure that the owner is there at the site. Believe me, this itself will create a lot of difference. And again, I'm talking about the social bucket, because that is one of the things we need to look into. Anyways, this slide talks about the cost difference. I think there is a little lag, but nevertheless, now it's there. So it just talks about the cost difference. I already told you that what we feel is that, so let's just do a comparison. So if there is, a second, yeah. So if in case you're getting 100 rupees, inclusive of GST for CNG, so you are getting around 78 rupees for CBG. So 20%, it's 22%, but lesser than the CNG one. Should be other way around, as we were talking about. Anyways, coming to the fermented organic manure, again there is a little lag. Please bear with me, but it will come. Yeah. So there are, again, one thing is very, very clear. Fermented organic manure is not a supply-driven thing. Again, I repeat, it's not a supply-driven thing. It's a demand-driven thing. So in your area, if there is a demand of prom, if there is a demand of anything else which you see over here, you can just figure it out. So again, it's a matter of feasibility. You have to be proactive in order to really understand that. Napier grass is one of the beautiful things, because when you do the phase separation, solid anyways, you can take care. Liquid is still a big question mark. And if you have Napier, which is equivalent to energy crop, which people are using in Europe, but if it doesn't bring food versus fuel argument, then we opt for it. Then you can utilize this liquid fermented manure back to the land, which is a beautiful way to look at it. But we can see this as an opportunity as far as the fermented organic manure is concerned, or this can be a threat as well if we don't do our homework properly. And as I told you at the very beginning, that instead of selling it directly, we can model it out. Of course, you need to look for the contract farming, you need to handshake then with other stakeholders, but a lot of beautiful model can be looked into it as far as the fermented organic manure is concerned. Yeah? I'm just skipping few of the slides because I think Indian Oil was earlier talking about the whole organic economy, and from association side, we are talking about an umbrella scheme called Suvikal. As I told you that, like Satat, we would like to have the active participation of fertilizer marketing companies as well, and we try to develop the whole mechanism how really government can take it further, how the umbrella scheme with the name Subikal, Dr. A.R. Shukla, our president, in fact, he gave this name. Yeah, so we try to really figure it out with the present schemes available for fermented organic manure or fertilizer. I think a lot has already been talked about upstream, midstream, and downstream, so I'm not going to repeat it. But one thing is for sure, the upstream is one of the biggest challenge. And as I told you that you need to really take care of the social bucket. Otherwise, afterward, it might be very tricky. And this can also be that you're not dependent on single substrate. You have a multi-feed digester. When it comes to the downstream, the fermented organic manure again, especially the liquid one, poses some challenge which needs to be really looked into it. Otherwise, it's too late once you have up and running plant, and then you are looking for addressing these challenges. It's a little late. That's why we all the time say that please do end-to-end feasibility, and you can do it by yourself. You just need to ask yourself the right question. And in case you don't have a question, you can ask us. We'll send you the questions. The only thing is that you need to be sure about this three bucket as far as technical, financial, and social is concerned. I think I will not talk too much about CBG, organic manure, carbon offset. I think a lot has been talked about carbon credit as well. But let me just be very clear. Carbon credit is just a chutney. It's not the samosa. It's just the additional benefit perhaps you can get, or perhaps you cannot. We did a very exhaustive simulation for the large scale biogas plant as far as the carbon credit is concerned. And we don't think more than 3 to 5% of the total revenue can be realized from the carbon credit side. And with this volatility in market, of course, you can look for it. But the project should not be done mainly keeping carbon credit in mind. Maybe the small one where additionality can be proven, that makes more sense. But especially for the larger one, you need to be really very realistic as far as the carbon credit is concerned. Well, I think this is one of the things people keep asking, what is the future of CBG? I mean, I personally love this methane molecule. And as it was already told, and we are also advocating that, if methane is coming from egg substrate, we should have a higher, should be fetching higher price. We'll come to that slide, what IOCL is anyways talking. If it comes from gobar, if it comes from paddy straw, if it comes from press mud, we can't really compare. Of course, at the end of the day, it's a methane molecule. In future, you can think about methanol or dimethyl ether, but I still feel that methane itself poses such a beautiful possibility. I don't think that in near future we really need to go through this route unless until we have methane in bulk, and it makes socio-economic sense to really offer it. And if the technology is really there as far as the quantity of methane is concerned. But anyways, sounds interesting to us. This is one of the figures which is floated by IOCL about the different capacity plant and probable IRR. And this is one of the things you can then imagine why we need to get, different pricing for the different substrate. If it's press mud, I don't need to do the pre-processing. If it's paddy straw, I need to do that. It's as simple as it. So we need to be really very realistic, and it should make sense from the sector perspective as well, so that we are not demanding just for the sake of demanding. We are really talking about the real impact. We are really talking about the real solution. I mean, we're really talking about the problems which are existing right now in India. Nevertheless, I think with this, I'm over with the slide. I think all of you know about Indian bioorganization. I don't want to really go through these slides, but nevertheless, otherwise you just visit our website. Thanks a lot. Thanks for your patient listening.
Thank you, Mr. Gaurav. You had come out with some excellent suggestions, and I am sure we will be taking it when we give our to President Shahi for sending it forward. I think speakers so far have given excellent suggestions, and we will have something to actually concrete right about to the ministries to take it forward. Now, can I now request if Dr. MP Singh has joined, I'll request him. Otherwise, from his team.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Sukhman Singh from Pedda.
Please,
so he's just arriving within 5 or 7 minutes. He's near.
So we can have some questions.
If there is any speaker.
No, we will have some questions around till he joins. So,
Okay.
So, Gaurav? Gaurav?
Yeah, I'm there. Yes, please.
Gaurav, the problem is that bioenergy, biofuel, and bio-CNG, they are all orphan child. Now, you see, you mentioned about manure. Manure is being sold at 25 rupees per kg on Amazon. Now, if government or Ministry of Fertilizer has given only 1 rupee 50 paisa subsidy, how is it really going to work out? So that's one part, and another part I would like to pose is that the technology which I have also posted on the bioenergy forum, the technology, what should be the best yield from different feedstock sources? Someone says 10%, but I went to one of the digester manufacturer and he said that the kitchen waste, which is one of the best feedstock, it gives only 3% CBG. So yes, we have to really do a proper R&D on that which are the best feedstocks and where we can get the best output of CBG.
So yeah, I mean, let's handle this technical question first. So when it comes to kitchen waste, for example, it's a very vague term, kitchen waste, because during Diwali you'll have more sweet into it. During Holi, it will be more diluted. So it will waste. So you really need to test the sample. But again, that's why we don't talk about exact output. We always talk about the range which might be there. But nevertheless, I think enough experience is there as far as MSW is concerned. But this question keeps coming to us, and we all the time say that if you can bring the representative sample, we have already done the handshake with National Institute of Bioenergy. We have got handshake with the IIT-BHU, and we try to really set up world-class lab in general, and people can send their sample, and then they will understand how much gas they will be getting from that particular sample. So you're totally right. I don't want to generalize it. I mean, if you download our app, which can calculate around 200 different substrate from Google Play Store, you can simulate it. But I think we should not really go with the assumption. We should really be very sure about what we are doing as far as the gas production is concerned. And then, of course, we should always have some margin of error, as simple as it. I mean, so my advice again would be that don't generalize. It's good to have some high level feeling, but when you're really opting for the real project, when you do the whole feasibility, even though it's a cow dung, we still suggest that if you can do the analysis by yourself, that is also good. But do the analysis. That's very, very, very important. Yeah. And yes, please.
Yeah, the imported urea, you get 20 rupees subsidy, but a domestic manufactured bio,
I'll come to this.
You have just suggested 1 rupee 50 paisa.
I'll come to this. Yeah,
I think we have to forcefully do this.
Okay, I'll come to the fertilizer part. So, number one, let me just be clear: 1.5 rupee is not the subsidy; it's a market development assistance. Right. So, even though you sell it for 20 rupees, 25 rupees, I don't know, XYZ, it's still, or even zero, you still get 1.5 rupees at the top of it. Yeah. And when it comes to Amazon or anywhere, the issue here is that we are talking about the bulk sale of fertilizer. We are not talking about 1 ton, 2 ton, 3 ton. I mean, every day you are, producing that. And this is the challenge. I mean, when I have to go and buy something very small, I don't care. I mean, in my flat itself, we have 250. Don't care if my Mali, he comes and he gives it for 100 rupees to me, even a small one, I'm fine with it. But when I have to buy in bulk, I really will think. And I think this is where, from the entrepreneurship perspective, they also have to de-risk this risk. They need to really do the study properly. And this is where I was trying to emphasize that fertilizer marketing company, they really have to play some active role. Otherwise, if you talk to all this project promoter, they always have this issue. Maybe in one season they are able to sell it, in another season they are not able to sell it. So we are just trying to figure out a solution which is permanent in nature, not volatile in nature. So that's the idea. But more the merrier. And I tell you honestly, and 1.5 rupees is also not a bad price. Of course, when you compare with urea, we did all this kind of analysis. We came up with a price range of around 6.5 rupees, and then we thought that if we get 1.5 and then the 5 rupees still we need. So we did all this kind of permutation combination. 1.5 is just to start with. Hope, this will go further in a better manner. But this was just to start with. Earlier there was nothing.
The Kisan Kendras, it's 10 rupees per kg.
They also need to earn.
Yeah. Anyway, that's for the Ministry of Fertilizer.
Oh,
I'm not able to hear.
Nikhil has raised his hand. Nikhil, please go on.
Yes, I have a question to Colonel. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Yes, I have
yes,
a
please.
question to Colonel Monish Ahuja. Sir, what about the torrefication of biomass? Have you explored this technology as a method to prolong the life and densify the biomass? I mean, it is quite popular in Europe, but we are not seeing it take off that much in India. So, what is your views on torrefication?
So from a technology perspective, yes, we evaluate all processes and technologies where biomass can get utilized. Globally, there is yet no large-scale torrefaction plant which is commercially operational. Technology developments have happened in Europe, have happened in Southeast Asia. Significant size demonstration plants or let's say projects were put. However, that challenge remains. India market for torrefied biomass for co-firing is there, and there are few plants which are now come up. NTPC also has done them at scale, and this is from the MSW route. And I do believe that significant work is happening in this segment for organic fraction to torrefaction as a product, and then the torrefied biomass getting used for PCI replacement in the steel sector, for co-firing mandates. So it's a segment which, yes, is emerging and is worthwhile looking at.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Tushar.
Yes, sir. So thank you for the insightful session, sir. So my question is about the current landed prices of biogas. So basically, I have three questions. One is regarding the current landed price of biogas. Then, what are the projections that we can see considering the supply security in the next 5 to 10 years of biogas? And how much blending is currently feasible with LNG, because all the LNG cannot be replaced with biogas at the moment. So what is the feasible, technologically feasible proportion of blending of CBG into LNG boilers?
Can I answer?
Yes, please, sir.
Gaurav, are you answering or your public need to answer?
I just
And so energy composition, composition is same as of that of the purified gas. So it's 100% blending feasibility is there. It's fungible. It's natural gas. Once you purify biogas, it's methane 90%, and energy is also 85 to 90% methane. So there's no problem about blending it.
Yes, thank you, sir. And what projections can we expect with respect to?
Gaurav would be in a better position.
Well, I just wanted to take a step back again. I mean, personally, I used to work for Shell in Germany for many years, and LNG was one of our field. Um, I mean, see, in LNG, when you talk about LNG, you have to really imagine that you are talking about, I don't know, liquefying it at, let's say, at atmospheric pressure and then minus 163 degrees centigrade or something like this. Yeah. So you need a minimum quantity for it. So we are talking with a lot of such bio-LNG supplier. And what we understood that, 10 tons per day would be something perhaps they will figure it out. Some of them even talked about 5 tons per day. I would say it will take a while unless until the market is not stabilized. So basically, from projection perspective, it's very difficult. Now, LNG trucks are, being increased in India. A lot of LNG-based applications are also coming. But I think it will still take a while before we can really talk about the projection. Because firstly, there should be a supply in place, and then only we can talk about the demand. So I think you are talking about a demand side projection. I would rather say that you just do it other way around the calculation. You see, right now we are talking from the projection perspective coming in future, and then we'll see how we can really take a small portion of it, which can be catered by biogas. Still, I would doubt about the real feasibility of technically perhaps yes, but financially we really need to look at it. It should really make sense from even logistic perspective. We really cannot just liquefy and then look for the market in nearby area. So I would rather be skeptical from the projection perspective, but again, look for the LNG in general projection, and then perhaps we can take a portion.
Yeah.
Ajay,
Thank you,
here I
sir.
have a small question.
Thank you. I think Mr. MP Singh has joined. So I'll now request Mr. MP Singh, Director PEDA, for his presentation. They have some success stories to discuss and share with us. Over to Mr. MP Singh.
Thank you, sir. I actually couldn't join earlier because there's some secretary had called some 2 meetings, so they were urgently required to be there. So thanks for giving me that opportunity. And I have a small presentation.
Welcome, sir.
Singh Saab, carry on, sir. We have started your presentation.
Is the presentation visible?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, sir, we started working in the CBG sector about 5-6 years back. Actually, the project which was set up by Verbio was discussed and planned earlier as a biomass power projects. But since there were some tariff issues with the utility, this project was ultimately converted to a compressed biogas. So that's how this compressed biogas started much earlier, before there was even a program of Satat started in Punjab. Later on, this project had developed. Probably you are very well aware of this project. This is one of the largest, which was supported and facilitated by PEDA. And next. So we are currently a state nodal agency, and The installed capacity in Punjab is around close to touching about 3,000 megawatts of renewable energy power projects. Next. So something advantages about Punjab. Next. So coming to this point, the need was about 20 million tons of paddy straw being produced per annum in the state. And currently we will be having around something like close to about 11 to 12 million tons, which will be available for doing all these kind of works. And we have around 11 biomass power projects. Recently, this month, one project has been commissioned of 10 megawatt capacity. So about 1 million tons getting consumed in 11 biomass power projects. We have about 4 compressed biogas projects which are in operation at this moment. And another 38 projects are in pipeline. So we expect about close to about 500 tons per day of compressed biogas coming up into pipelines by another about 2 years' time. And similarly, there's another bioethanol project being, which is jointly done with HPCL. This is getting also commissioned very shortly, probably in another 1 or 2 months' time. The date was earlier about July only this. So by July or August, we'll have this plant up and running. And next. So CBG, I'll not speak much. Everybody's aware about it. Next. So the slight breakup of this 4 CBG projects with about 85 TPD in operation. They are currently, most of them are about operating about 40, close to 30 to 40%. Slowly, these will go to full capacities. Then about 7 more projects in close to commissioning. There will be about 79 tons per day of that. And they'll consume about 4.20 lakh tons per petty straw. About that, 27 more projects are in various phases of pre-project activities. We have some good large companies like Thermex, then offshoots of like Verbio, then probably we also have oil companies and some new projects in pipeline also. So total about 38 CBG projects which are in various phases of construction, pre-project activities. Next. So this was the earliest project which we started and built up in 2004, and it is operational since that. This is basically was a power generation plant which was set up in association with the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy and plus some bilateral funding. This plant we converted about 5 years back into a compressed biogas project. Though we have a gas engine also which is operational and doing about 20% power generation, remaining 80% is going to compressed biogas. So this compressed biogas is being sold on daily basis to the IOCL. Next. This is about Verbio. You're all very aware about it. I don't need to say much. Currently, they are selling to IOCL, but we have facilitated a signing of a tripartite agreement for sale of the compressed biogas to the CGT company, that is Torrent Gas, along with GAIL. So recently, there's a notification which has been announced only on 25th of this month, and by Ministry of Petroleum Natural Gas, under which now 50% this viability gap fund will be provided to laying of the CGD to the CGDs for pipelines for offtake of the compressed biogas from the power these CBG plants to their CGD pipelines. So 50% expenditure will be provided as VGF. Next. We have another 12 TPD plant at Farm Gas. This is a SPV company of IRM Energy, which is one of the CGD entities in Punjab. So this plant is operational and running at about something like 70 to 75% capacity. And next. Another 20 TPD plant has recently been commissioned, and this project is currently operating at a slightly lower levels. It will be sorting out some technology issues are there, and this plant will also go to full capacity in another about 3 or 4 months' time. They have also signed a tripartite agreement with Torrent Gas. So gas will be currently given through the caskets to the decompressing stations, and this plant has also signed a tripartite agreement, Torrent Gas along with GAIL. Next. Another 20 TPD plant, which has also been commissioned. And this will also go to full capacity in another 3-4 months' time. And similar project and tripartite agreement for offtake of gas has been signed with Torrent Gas. Next. We have also recently signed a MOU with the Gas Authority of India Limited. Actually, today's meeting was with GAIL only. The ED GAIL was with us and the secretary was there. So we have actually providing them the land for all these 10 projects and also doing all the hand holding. So they will be building up another 10 projects of 15 TPD each with about investment of over 650 crores. We have already provided them the locations. We are giving them the lands and we hope to have these projects up and running in another 2 years' time. Next. We have also signed a MOU with Hindustan Petroleum Corporation Limited. So 10 CBG projects, they will be putting up of 20 TPD capacity each in the state of Punjab. So, sorry, 10 projects of 10 TPD capacity each. And these projects also we hope to commission another about 2 months' time. We are also providing land for these projects. Next. So these are some of the incentives we are providing to the various investors in the state under the NRC policy. Next. Some of the incentives given by Government of India, which you are well aware, which are being provided and facilitated here. Next. So these are the challenges probably they must have been discussed today. So some of the challenges I've tried to highlight, they mostly relate with the Government of India and also some of the challenges with the state. So next, please. So we are also coming up the draft state biofuel policy. I'll just need to take a slight break. I have a small urgent call from the secretary. I'll just be on mute. Just give me about 1 or 2 minutes.
Popli sir, Kanan Monesh Ahuja, I just put a question to MP Singh sir also.
Sure.
The numbers that he put out, all the projects are in the range of 10 to 15% of production capacity over a period of time. You know,
Okay.
1 saal, 2 saal, and yes, issues. So he's highlighted the issues rightfully so.
Right.
So look at the banking situation of a project at 10, 15, 20%, or even 50% production capacity.
Right.
91st day, most of these projects would be NPS. So that means the projects which have got set up, the project proponents are continuing to support it, assuming they are not NPS as yet.
Okay.
So that's where I was saying, you know, how do you get the industry to be moving vibrant when the plants which are already set up are in such a situation?
So this is a draft. We are also coming up with a new biofuel policy, which is already public hearings have been held. We are just awaiting clearance from the finance department. So we'll be providing some financial and fiscal incentives more under this new policy once it gets notified. We hope to get this policy notified within another 1 or 2 months' time. Next. So these are the state financial incentives. We'll be providing about 2.5 CR for every 4.8 DPD CBG project capacity. And it will be limited to 5 CR per project. Plan to give road tax exemption to vehicles which use compressed biogas. Next. So that's all I have. We are open for questions.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. MP Singh. A very comprehensive present. I think we have some questions. The first question is from Colonel Ahuja.
Ajay Shankar, I also have a question after this.
Sure, sir.
So,
MP Singh sir, good afternoon. My question was from the data that you show, 15 to 20% capacity is presently kind of getting generated. And, at this capacity, most of the projects by now with some time that these projects have been put up would be NPS. So while the government support is fantastic, but from a project perspective of cumulative, product and IRR returns, how are we going to push this industry to be stable and growing?
See, the upcoming projects are mostly, these are technology issues. We have had detailed discussions with Ever Enviro. Work view is already now gone up. There was evacuation issues. Most of this is getting sorted out because what we are now looking at is not transporting through the cascades to the ROs. What we are now looking at is actually blending into the gas pipelines. So that blending was earlier stuck due to the fact that there was a lot of cost involved. The CGD operator had to lay about, in certain cases, close to about 50 kilometers pipelines, in certain cases about 80 kilometer pipelines. So with the government of India, we were pushing very hard. That notification has been issued on 25th. 50% VGF will be provided by government of India, MOPNG, for laying those pipelines. Once those pipelines are laid, the contracts are already signed with the tripartite contracts are already signed. Those contracts are bankable, and we feel that within a year's time, the pipelines should get constructed. And we are also now facilitating with the fact that rather than signing the offtake agreements with the IOCL, which are mostly present here, we are pushing to sign those contracts, tripartite contracts, offtake contracts with the CGD and the GAIL. So that's how the offtake is getting strengthened. And you can well imagine that this is it's still a nascent sector. I don't know how much has happened in many other states, but we have tried to push this sector a lot here. And the other thing is that once we announce this policy, definitely there will be a lot of ease coming in. Plus we are also doing a lot of hand-holding along with the bankers. Point of not reaching break-even capacities has technical issues also, and the offtake issues also. So it takes time. Sometimes we have, I'm going to say, covered a lot of road at this juncture. But I feel that it will take another about 6 months to a year to actually go to capacities of about 70% of those regions. There are two projects. One is ours. We are operating at about 80%, 80 to 85% CUF. And there's another project which is also operating, that is IRM gas, the farm gas, which is operating at about 70, 75%. So two projects have already reached those capacities. The third model which we are presenting out here is that you don't need actually a license here to sell this gas. So IRM has not gone for neither sale to the IOCL, neither to the CGD. Themselves being CGD, they have laid a direct pipeline, and they are not compressing this gas to the 250 bar. They're just compressing this to about 30-35 bar, and they have put up their own RO on the this Delhi Amritsar road. So they put two ROs. They are selling CBG directly, and they are not paying any trading margins. So they are selling it at about 88 rupees, whereas the trading margin with the IOCL is where you sell is about 72 rupees. So there are about 3 or 4 models, business models in this sector. So since he's selling at 88 rupees or 85 rupees, he has been able to do a break-even fast. Only thing is that he has set up his own RO. So the RO investment was required to be done, which is about 2 crore or something, 2.5 CR more. And that kind of model is also available. So that's why he's able to, I want to say, offtake to about 70 to 75%. Plus, we feel that more and more vehicles are coming into it. Plus, once we are blending into pipelines, then you don't need to be only concentrating on transport sector. This can go to many other sectors of the economy. Third thing I want to add, currently the blending is voluntary. From next year onwards, it will become mandatory. So 1% blending will start becoming mandatory from the next year.
Thank you, sir. Sir, just to fantastic point you brought, sir, that the difference of 80% of sale price to a IOC vis-a-vis setting up own RO, where he's getting 88 rupees, is the differentiator for the business model.
Very right.
So in fact, government, instead of being a facilitator at 80% price, is actually becoming an inhibitor at that 80% pump sale price.
Let's not say that. There's a lot of cost involved with IOCL also. Let's not give these kind of statements just on the face of it without studying the background. IOCL is required to do a lot of investment, and that investment has to be categorized, and these have been prepared by the MOPNG. So about 12%, 12 rupees margin as a trading margin, that cost and splitting up is fully available, rather than not making much money out of it. And it's a Government of India mandate. The mandate basically goes far ahead with the fact that we are looking at the fact that how soon we could cross very large blending proportions. Since you can well imagine that ultimately you are buying a lot of LNG and CNG from outside. So it helps the country and the state in terms of a lot of foreign exchange savings. So those are very long-term, I mean to say, plans which are already now up. And that's why government is making it mandatory. I think so about another 3-4 years, it will turn to 5% blending. But that moment, and for the state of Punjab, we have looked at those kind of scenarios whereby if we start using the kind of surplus biomass we have, the entire state of Punjab need in terms of transport sector and plus other needs, even including NFL, Bathinda, which are large suckers of CNG at this moment, fertilizer companies. The entire thing would be met by compressed biogas if we start using the entire surplus very strong. So those kind of studies have also been done. So the government is not an inhibitor, rather government is a facilitator.
Okay. Sir, there is a question from Ajay Shankar, sir.
Yeah, please.
In fact, the last point made was where my question was leading to, which is that taking a medium-term view, would it make more economical sense to have the use of gas as a complete fuel for tractors, for buses, for vehicles? In the medium term, would that be cheaper for the economy rather than going through the blending route?
So what happens?
It's a question to all the panelists. It will be an intuitive answer, but still, I mean, because I have seen South Africa where they converted coal into fuel, and you had cars which used only that fuel, Sasol, and at fueling stations you could take that. Brazil has similarly cars which use only ethanol because there's surplus sugarcane. So would it make, in the medium term, a better economic model to look at decentralized, complete usage of gas for tractors, buses, trucks, or whatever, or local usage?
So there's already a SATAT program operated by the MOPNG, which is basically for transport only. So exclusively, earlier the plan was basically to use this.
My sense is that is with blending. I am thinking of pure 100% use.
For transport only.
100% use. The rest of the world, there are buses that I have seen which use only biogas.
I'll make a broad engineering comment on this. Normally, so there are two factors.
Ajay Shankar, sir, can I answer this?
Please. I mean, supposed to all the panelists. This is an area I'm not familiar with, so I am getting educated today.
You know that Supreme Court decision in Delhi, and all buses, they were converted to CNG in Delhi, and in fact, all the buses and heavy vehicles are running on CNG. So that's fine, but blending is absolutely feasible because CBG, the compressed biogas, is 90% methane, while CNG is 85 to 90% methane.
Let me clarify. My question is not which is feasible, which in the medium term is more economical. That is my question.
Should I answer it?
Logistic costs is going to be a big issue.
The point here is basically, whenever you push any fuel into any engine or any prime mover, there are two factors which are important. One is the gross calorific value of the fuel. Second is the station heat rates. So normally, if I'm blending it, first I'll answer the blending. I'll answer in a reverse fashion. I am blending it. It goes to industry, it goes to commercial operations, it goes to even the domestic usage of the gas also. Now the pricing is such by Government of India, the domestic gas which is done by the CGD is priced at a, I would say, lower level so as to encourage usage of domestic, and the price is lower. Industry also currently has subsidies built into it. And thirdly, the commercial usage. So the pricing structure is done by the MOPNG. Now coming to the fact for your economic sense, transport sector, if you look at it, if you are using currently a CNG vehicle and you are pushing CBG into it, so we need to see what is the cost of that vehicle to a consumer and what is the mileage. So what I'm trying to answer from that angle is, we have done those analysis here. So vehicles which are currently using CNG, they can easily use CBG because their BIS standards are already out. Most of the companies, rather than keeping it 90% purified, it keeps at about something like 95% purified. So definitely there's an advantage in terms of, but if you're comparing this with petrol, there's more advantage, economic sense, because if you're converting a petrol or a diesel vehicle to compressed biogas, it makes more economic sense. The other point, which is we are just looking at the fact that once you are having about 90% plus methane, the GCV is around something like close to about 8,800 or 8,600 in that range. So definitely petrol has a higher GCV. But looking at the costing part of it, one thing needs to be seen. Currently, the costing at 88 rupees is pretty high. So why it is high is that the government of India has kept that so as to encourage people to come and invest. Once this sector grows, the cost will definitely come down. Once the costs come down, it will start making more economic sense in the transport sector. The other point which is very important is the two things which need to be understood. The chemistry for CNG and CBG is all the same. However, why CNG is preferred is you're having some elements of butane and propane also traveling along with methane. So, and that is a very standardized kind of a product. So you don't have any challenges currently in your engines, whereas there are challenges, technical challenges in terms of firing compressed biogas at 100%. Why? It is a gas which is coming out of the digesters. There are some issues. You have some H2S, even some traces. Somewhere you have some moisture traces. You also have some issues with terms of actually percentage of methane. So if it goes toward very close to 90%, though the BI standard says 90% plus, but if it is 91, 92, you don't definitely have people saying that, okay, this is not a good gas. But if you have about 95 to 96% of methane present in the CBG, then definitely it's a good gas. So this is these kind of things we are currently looking at. Challenges are there. We've already spoken to Government of India to review this and make BIS standard to be going up to about 95% plus. So that's my answer, my opinion on that.
So may I come in with my thought then? That was the thought at the back of my mind.
Just one small submission, sir. Current CGD gas allocation is about 33 million standard cubic meter. And out of that, 60% comes from domestic gas at $6.5 per million BTU. And 35 to 40% comes from LNG. The price is ranging from, let's say, I mean, excluding taxes and all, it's around $10 to $12 per million BTU. So if, let us say, the bio CNG is also blended with that price or cooled with that price, then I think the pricing issue can be resolved to some extent.
I was wanting to take the reasoning in a direction which addresses the points made very forcefully by Monish, that today we have a very complex set of pricing and subsidy mechanisms.
Right.
And whatever is happening, we are not seeing the breakthrough that one would like to see.
We have 14 rupees per cubic meter.
Let me complete, please. Okay. So what I had in mind was the success we have had in other sectors. So solar was mentioned, you had bulk procurement and long-term contracts and you succeeded. So what I was thinking of here is that supposing we did something similar to what has been done with electric buses. 2 bulk tenders, 10,000 buses. The electric buses have turned out to be cheaper than diesel buses for the user. So supposing you had 2 parallel streams, one buses designed and for the engines designed to use only the biogas, and a parallel stream for producing that amount of biogas, and say you ran all city buses in Ludhiana on biogas only. You may well find the subsidy issue easier to handle, and it may turn out that you don't need a subsidy or the system can absorb that cost. So then you have really, the only issue you have is the subsidy issue at the final consumption point. The rest can all be market driven through competitive bidding. That's the thought I had, which I am inclined to share with all of you.
We'll discuss it separately, sir.
Ultimately, what I like to say is that subsidies will have to go away, because subsidies create a lot of impact on the actual market demand analysis.
Which is why if you have bulk procurement of buses and competitive procurement of the gas, then on both sides you have competition, prices will come down, and city buses can be run with using gas only, and maybe you'll find it is cheaper than running it with diesel and whatever.
It's a great idea.
Basically, so there'll be 2-3 revenue streams here. When you set up this plant, one is that you will also dispose of your fertilizer, FOM, that is organic manure, which is now already covered under the Fertilizer Control Act. Thirdly, this national carbon markets are opening up. Already there's notification, the work is going on. So there's huge going to be a carbon, I'm going to say revenue, which will ultimately come because methane is 21 times more potent than CO2. So once we look at these, there's a fourth stream also, which is under, we are looking at very, in some precautions, we are already operating a project ourselves. So our engineers know this best. We are coupling and also looking at the possibility of using waste heat recovery systems in the process. Once you use these waste heat recovery systems, your air conditioning loads are not required to be driven by electricity, but are required to be driven by waste heat recovery systems. So we are already doing a project at one of our plants.
This one has a huge potential. I'm glad you're working on it because this waste heat recovery has huge.
What I'm trying to say is that ultimately the cost will come down. If you look at the National Solar Mission, you rightly pointed out, we started with about 70 rupees 91 paisa, even more than that, come down to about 2 rupees 50 paisa in 3 days. Once subsidies went away, the competition led this to such a stage. Now at this moment, we are like at a curve where the pricing was, solar was about something 17 to 91, 17, 91 to 50 rupees in that curve. And there are no much developers in the country. This is still a nascent area. Once the digester technologies stabilize, for Punjab, we are working on very tough kind of feedstock, which is paddy straw. Paddy straw is a very tough.
It's the toughest, I'm told. I'm told it is the toughest.
If you're looking at easier fuels like cow dung or press mud, they're much easier to handle in digesters. Digester designs vary a lot. Lot of other costs are attached because you have to do a lot of pre-treatment work. The investment goes into that for handling paddy straw. So there'll be a lot of issues from digester design. There'll be a lot of issues in actually process. There'll be a lot of issues in costing. So simply saying that the subsidies elements will be able to do, I feel that we need to strengthen the markets in terms of bringing in more policy and more interventions on account of easing the offtakes, easing of FOM offtakes, and turning into market structures which now are driven by green fuels and those kind of things. I'll give you one example. We already started getting a lot of industry coming back to us and saying that you kindly certify our fuel usage. Kindly certify that we are using solar, we are using renewables, because there's a lot of demand for now coming from export-oriented units where they want a certificate for export of products that yes, you use green fuel to manufacture this. So what I'm trying to say, the markets are now developing into those kind of stages. So there's going to be a lot of advantage. Probably subsidies will go away very soon. That's what my opinion is on that.
I have a slightly more extreme opinion that the moment a program is dependent on subsidy, the availability of the subsidy constrains the program. And the second view is that if you have competitive bids to discover price, then prices go down. A subsidy regime tends to prevent that kind of cost reduction.
So initially what happens is initially we require all this because in solar also it was there. You can well imagine the kind of
solar
was the driver behind the major solar program. At that moment, the actually did a program whereby they actually built 120 megawatt capacity projects in India, and for which they are currently paying around 12.5 rupees as VGF, which is still being paid for 25 years. So I'm not denying those facts. Initially, you need that support, but I think so in this kind of sector, which is still more challenging because you have a variable cost element also, because solar doesn't have a variable cost element. So we need to do a lot of work here in this sector because the pricing mechanism is not has been done as was done by CRC. Even the sir is sitting here, and it is like a very, I'd say, a great opportunity to have Shahi sir also here. And I always have been holding a great admiration for him because in MERC he was the one who started actually doing the tariff orders for renewables, which were later on coming into CRC once he was in CRC also. So those kind of structured work needs to be done in pricing in compressed biogas. Once we have those kind of orders, then probably the clarity will be there. We also will need some gas commissions, or probably the current petroleum gas commission need to work in this field, because this industry is now growing up. There will be a lot of commercial offtake issues which will be there. The offtake agreements have to be like power purchase agreements, which is still not there. IOCL is currently not giving any deemed, I mean to say, offtake kind of clauses, or even there's no element of LCs, there's no element of bank guarantees, there's no element of escrow accounts. Those kind of things will help this market in strengthening the financial closures. So there's a lot of road to be still covered up if we carry a comparative analysis with the renewable power sector. That's what I'm trying to repeat at.
Can I ask a question, sir? Just to switch the conversation in a bit different direction, but congratulations, sir, for these great numbers. And I think PEDA is the only agency, state level agency in India. Maybe if I'm forgetting, maybe there are other, but not each state has these agencies, which is good. But do you have success story from rural areas where the farmers are stakeholders or the entrepreneur is farmer? Because there comes the most of the problems like financing. Technology can be solved, but financing is the major problem in rural areas. And I think CBG will be successful only if the farmers are stakeholders like Europe. And each state in India is equivalent to each country in Europe. And we can have not only 5,000 but 20,000, but only if rural areas are involved in it. So, do you have any success stories from rural areas where the real change is happening, sir?
Currently, we have success stories, but there the gas is being used for cooking applications only, or maybe power applications, power generation. But coming to actually installing a compressed biogas unit, because if you have done a biogas is known to everybody. You can have any digester design. Once you do a large scale, you definitely look at digester designs which are with a higher efficiency. But once it comes to farmers owning it and actually operating it, we have some success stories in Punjab, which can definitely be highlighted and also put up onto the board. But they are basically for power generation and only for this cooking applications. Coming to the fact that, okay, to take this compressed biogas to rural areas, we definitely are looking at those kind of plans whereby we have smaller projects, and we also set up the RO units with some support in the village itself. We have done some work probably with PAU, whereas tractors could be operated, and they have been operated on compressed biogas. Only thing is that we have to do a retrofit with the tractor, whereby you will have a tank, extra tank, because the volumes are higher. Even after compression, you will need a bigger tank there to actually have onboard compressed biogas for tractor application. Mahindra tractor was, I mean to say, a kit was installed and it ran good. So definitely I feel that the days are not far off and you will have ROs installed in villages and rural application machinery operating on compressed biogas. Since compressed biogas is actually getting generated from waste, agricultural waste or waste from the villages only.
Yeah, I think then only it will be real use of biogas. I mean, for real net zero problem. Of course, except MSW, which can be only in cities, but rest of the things are in rural areas, like as raw material.
Absolutely, I'm a fully advocating. I am a great advocate myself only for biomass and biogas. Why? For a country like India, we are very much blessed with a good tropical climate. We don't need to heat the digesters. If you look at Europe, and I've done my fellowship also in Germany, you need to invest a lot in these plants for actually doing the heating of the digesters, because you have to keep at those mesophilic and thermophilic ranges, the digesters. If you don't keep at those temperature ranges, they do not operate. So India is blessed in terms of having good ambient temperatures, which are good for actually operating these plants. So you don't need to have heating equipment and all those things. So we need to launch a very big mission here at the Government of India, which should be like a national compressed biogas mission, or I don't know how, or a national biomass mission, because whatever you do, it is a 24/7 energy. unlike solar or wind, which is only which is intermittent in nature still, or maybe during the daytime only. So it makes a lot of sense for a country like us to actually set up as much capacity as possible. And it could be either power or it could be either energy in the form of gas. It will do a great, I want to say, addition to the energy sector in the country.
One very small question. Has PEDA created a database for all the plants in Punjab state for CVG plants? Because the Ministry of Petroleum doesn't have the nationwide database for all the plants. I think that's an area where one should work statewide, and then, of course, the country.
Could you repeat? I could not catch the initial, what you were saying. Yeah. Could you kindly repeat the question?
No, I was just asking, you mentioned that PEDA has some 7, 8 plants in different areas, but there would be some private entrepreneurs and some farmers also have created. So let's say you have 5 plants and all private entrepreneurs have, let's say, 70 plants. So do you have the database for all the plants in PEDA? Because if you have a look at the Ministry of Petroleum's data, they just give a number of 22,000 tons of CBG produced in 23-24. So
we have the entire data for each project here in Punjab, which is in operation or which is in construction stage, and we review the projects every month.
Okay.
So standard protocol set up here.
I think the state should also learn from you.
So we also are under obligation from the LGT. Yeah. So all data is available for plant-wise data is available in Punjab at this point.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, sir. I think we have one last question. Otherwise, I'll request for his concluding remarks. It was a interaction, excellent presentation by all the speakers. I must thank them from core of my heart. It was great. Sir, sir, for your concluding remarks, sir.
Mute है सर का.
Sai sir, please unmute.
Unmute करिए sir.
Do I have to give vote of thanks?
Yeah, I have been able to. I think it has been a very somewhat lengthy session because a lot of interesting questions and comments and response. And then I thought in the beginning we started with something like 45 people, but just within a few minutes we had close to 80.
Yes.
And sometimes more than 80 people. So this has been one of the most interesting and one of the lengthiest debates on our webinar. And rightly so. I raised the issue, others raised the issue that we need to think seriously to bring it out of the margin. It is very low in terms of energy proportion in the total basket of energy in Indian context. And efforts are on. And final thing happens, and solar is an example. Any of the renewable is an example. I agree with Ajay Shankar that for some time you can think of subsidy, but for a long time, subsidy-based things, I don't think that takes the technology out of the problem. When wind thing started earlier than solar, it was not a subsidy. We only gave advantage of depreciation benefit, some financing instrumentation, and therefore that structuring helped in a big way. Similarly, now in the beginning, solar people accepted as a system. The Regulatory Commission accepted as a system of giving higher tariff, etc., etc. So subsidy-based development, I don't know. It has this particular biogas has been under discussion for decades. So first thing should be that is there a better technology breakthrough? Either we are doing or somewhere else is being done. The adaptation of that would be important. If something else is being done somewhere, or our own scientists and technologists are doing, we should bring it up. We should. I agree that extensive use of this in agriculture is there, but at the same time, industry should embrace the industry application of biogas. As I said some time back, it's hardly less than 20%, and maximum is family, community, and a little bit in agriculture. So that has to happen. And we have to design whole formulations of the schemes and policies and regulation suited to these different constituencies. Some discussions I heard with reference to the transportation and whether transportation can be on gas. See, the discussion of gas as such, as opposed to biogas. That means if you want to change from liquid fuel to gas, that has happened in a big way on environmental ground in Delhi and other cities. But gas itself we are importing, so it is not gas as such. We have to find solution to how we reduce our import dependence at all itself. And in that context, biogas has to have a market. Biogas has to have a market, and it should then justify the investment. Means lenders and equity providers must get attracted to this. That is the situation. And that volume is there. Volume is there in India. I think all of us have to think, and we will structure. A lot of suggestions have come. A lot of presentations that were there, they highlighted the issues and challenges and also solutions which are happening and will happen in the future. We will try to put them in different baskets for different types of applications and try to see what is the government intervention required. Government intervention could be minimum. In some cases, it will be more. But what is important is that we should have a vision of having the share of biogas in our energy market much higher than what we have today, as we discussed right in the first session. So thank you, all of them. It has been a very good discussion, and many people have contributed to these discussions. The responses were also good. And we will try to do and send it at the right places to regulatory group, to government group, that the two ministries are involved. That also became an issue at one time, whether petroleum ministry should handle biogas or renewable ministry should handle biogas. So that is also an issue. Both the ministry will handle biogas in their own way. If it is for power generation, perhaps part of it will be petrol power in MNRE. But basically, gas is being handled by the petroleum ministry. Now, if the gas producing people are supplying people, they take upon themselves that they should reduce their dependence on import and have massive support. Obviously, petroleum ministry can take a lead and should take a lead to see how best gas is injected into our gas grid and a market structure of gas is created much beyond. Of course, that is not to say that in rural area, in agriculture. So it has a decentralized distributed application in a big way, like even for power we are thinking. And it also has a market structure where large scale generation and large scale supply using open access to the pipeline system, that highway pipeline as well as local pipeline. Those are the issues which will have to be brought to the platform, to the discussion, and should be resolved. So thanks once again on behalf of India Energy Forum. We will try to compile the discussions and recommendations. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Sir, final question. Sir, one final question from my side, sir. Sir, basically, are there any regulations on the pricing of biogas, and currently, what is the landed price of compressed biogas? Approximate range, sir. I mean,
anybody from the gas section to say that? Response?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. So, first, the question is, what is the landed price or purchase price of compressed biogas, and are there any regulations to control these prices?
The problem is that every biogas plant would have a different price because they have a different kind of investment. Now, I think how to control the price, that you should ask Colonel Monish Ahuja because or PEDA, that yes, how they can really control the price. But more important is that the prices should be such that it should compete with other energy sources in different other energy sources, let's say oil or diesel or petrol or electricity. So that should be the bottom line. So in the way we started the solar in 2009 with a proposed 90,000 crore subsidy, though of course we all don't believe on subsidy, but yes, to bring up this child on horizon.
Sir, let me answer him, sir. The price at present is 20% lower than the CNG price. That is what was
20% more than the CNG price. No, it's not correct.
80% of the CNG price.
You see, the problem is that CNG is having VAT. It has got 14 rupees excise, and then it has got the transportation charges. Now, how much you can reduce out of that as a part of promoting CBG, that all depends on government policies. But you see, the price of production could be somewhere between 50 to 60 rupees per kg. But if you have on CNG 14 rupees excise, and then 20 rupees VAT, and then the distribution charges, and then of course the dispensing company charges. So that's why I mean it makes somewhere around 100 rupees or so. So I think government has to take out these excise and VAT like what we did for the ethanol plant.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. May I request Dr. Malti Goyal for formal vote of thanks, sir. Thank you very much, everybody, for making it interactive. Please.
Very good afternoon. It's a very long session, so I will just take 2 minutes. I am Dr. Malti Goyal. I served in the Ministry of Science and Technology, and now currently I am the member of India Energy Forum. So it is a very much privilege for me to convey the vote of thanks for this, because I am also convener for the Renewable Energy Group. India is no doubt endowed with vast agricultural resources, and this topic has been there for quite some time. And this is the discussion we have now, that we can see that biogas is under transition. Biogas success is under transition, I would say. I thank Mr. Popley for taking it forward, the session, and Shri R.V. Shahiji for his visionary perspective he gave. I thank all the guest speakers for their insights. Mr. Dedia for talking about the visionary presentation, for his visionary presentation. Then we had Colonel Monish Ahuja, Lieutenant Colonel, and he talked about that running a plant is a very big challenge still. So we heard these perceptions.
Madam, अपना video on कर लो.
And the hello. Well, I'm connected from the desktop, so it is not possible for me to connect on the video because we were trying all laptop, phone, everything, but somehow internet is a problem today. So I'm so sorry about the inconvenience about it. We also had a talk from Mr. Guruvinder Mohan, and he shared his experience how we put up a plant, and Mr. NP Singh about the PEDA vision for the activities which are being taken. So I thank all the speakers and all the participants profusely, and thank you very much.